Welcome to Infinite Novel Audio. Subscribe, and enjoy this video. Chapter 26, The Bearded Uncle. Tang San had heard there was a blacksmith shop next door and planned to try it out, so he turned into a small alley, but for some reason, he felt a chill down his back. "Little friend, wait a moment." A shout suddenly rang out from behind him, causing him to instantly become alert. He turned around to look. He saw a middle-aged man with a bearded face, wearing noble court attire with white stockings wrapped around his pant legs, walking toward him. "Uncle, is there something wrong?" Tang San slightly raised his right sleeve, preparing to counterattack at any moment. His small movements could naturally not escape the eyes of a spirit saint. However, the bearded man didn't mind. What kind of trouble could an 8- or 9-year-old child cause? "Uncle heard you want to make money." The bearded man took out a money pouch, weighed it, and looked at him with a smile. Seeing the money pouch, Tang San's eyes lit up. "Yes, I want to make money. Uncle, is there anything you need my help with?" Tang San asked with eyes full of expectation. The bearded man smiled and said, "Of course, if you are willing to help me, I can give you anywhere from dozens to 100 gold coin each time. I just don't know if you are willing." Dozens to 100 gold coin each time. Tang San suddenly widened his eyes, truly shocked by the other party's generosity. "You have to know, ordinary people might not be able to earn that much in a whole year. What kind of job pays such a high salary?" The bearded man smiled and said, "That's right, and if you perform well enough, I can add more money. 100 gold coin is definitely not the limit." He had been following Tang San in secret and knew that the other party was currently very short on money. So an idea occurred to him. That was to use money to forcibly bend him. That was much more interesting than taking him by force. Tang San tentatively asked, "May I ask, what exactly is the work?" "There is no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Since the other party offered such a high price, it couldn't possibly be an ordinary job." Sigh. Hearing this, the bearded man took a deep breath, and his eye sockets actually turned red for no reason. Tang San was full of confusion. "I just asked about the job content. Why did he get sentimental?" The bearded man said, "I had a son about your age who looked somewhat similar to you, but he passed away unexpectedly. Seeing you just now, I couldn't help but think of him. I don't actually have any work. I just wanted to ask if you would be willing to accompany me for one night to satisfy the longing in my heart. Some things cannot be said directly, they need to be approached step by step. Saying it directly would only result in rejection." "Ah, you don't mean you want me to pretend to be your son, do you?" Tang San stared at him, dumbfounded. "I know my request is a bit excessive, but I really have no choice. I miss him so much. You can make any request you want." As the bearded man spoke, tears uncontrollably streamed down his face. Seeing this, Tang San's heart softened. He deeply felt the longing of a father for his deceased son. It's just, the bond between father and son was something that could not be desecrated in his heart. Even just pretending was not okay. The bearded man saw the resistance in Tang San's heart and quickly said, "You don't need to pretend to be father and son. Just accompany me for one night." Tang San couldn't help but be stunned and subconsciously asked, "Are you sure?" The bearded man nodded, "I am sure." Tang San hesitated immediately. Accompanying him for one night could earn him dozens to 100 gold coin. This was not something any job could trade for. "Fine, give me the money first." Tang San finally compromised, but he also kept his guard up, to avoid him not paying afterward. The bearded man beamed with joy and immediately counted out 50 gold coin from the money pouch. "This is the deposit. We'll talk about the specifics tomorrow." Tang San took the gold coin, and a trace of joy involuntarily appeared on his face. The bearded man patted his head. "Come on, let's take you to buy 2 sets of clothes and eat something delicious." Tang San's eyes lit up, thinking there's such a good thing. "Thank you, uncle." After sincerely thanking him, Tang San followed the bearded man happily. The bearded man took Tang San around the city, truly like a father with his son, buying him clothes and treating him to food and entertainment. Until the sky dimmed, the bearded man brought him back to the hotel. Ran around for so long, broke a sweat, go take a bath. The bearded man swallowed his saliva. Okay. Tang San did not notice his strangeness, and after responding, he took the new clothes into the bathroom. It's you. The bearded man let out a heavy breath and couldn't help but lick his lips. He took out a stick of incense and lit it. That was his specially made incense, which could make people obediently let him do whatever he wanted. He overestimated his patience and finally decided to take him by force. A moment later, Tang San came out of the bathroom and smelled the scent permeating the air. He didn't have much of a reaction. The ingredients of the incense were things that did not exist in the world he originally came from. Naturally, he couldn't identify it. Come over and chat. The bearded man sat on the sofa and patted the spot beside him. Tang San didn't think much and walked over. The bearded man chatted with him while waiting for the drug to take effect. However, he soon discovered something unusual. The drug was slow to take effect, which proved that Tang San's mental force must be far superior to his peers. Is he still a genius of the mental type? Thinking of this, the bearded man became even more excited. He hadn't taken a genius before. Uncle is also a spirit master and a spirit saint at that. Do you want to see Uncle's spirit? The bearded man looked at Tang San with a faint smile on his face. Spirit saint. Tang San looked at him, dumbfounded, feeling incomparably shocked in his heart. The other party was actually a spirit saint. Yes. Tang San nodded vigorously, his eyes filled with both curiosity and expectation. Good. The bearded man stood up, stretched out his right hand, and as his spirit power surged, a pink flower appeared in his palm. Then 7 spirit rings, 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 3 black, emerged from beneath his feet. Seeing that he also had a plant-type spirit, the light in Tang San's eyes became even brighter. The bearded man smiled and said, "Let you experience Uncle's spirit ability. Don't worry, this spirit ability has no substantial damaging effect." Tang San didn't think much either, waiting with eyes full of expectation. Knowing that his mental force was different from ordinary people, the bearded man directly injected spirit power into the 6th spirit ring. His 6th spirit ability was called Enchanting Illusion, which could make people fall into an illusion of confusion and infatuation. Even a mental-type spirit saint couldn't stop it. No matter how strong Tang San's mental force was, it couldn't be stronger than a mental-type spirit saint, right? As the bearded man's 6th spirit ring lit up, spots of pink halo were released from his spirit, all drifting toward Tang San, completely enveloping him. Tang San closed his eyes and felt it, his body inexplicably becoming hot, his mind also becoming dazed, and his self-will was quickly devoured. Chapter 27, The Damned Bearded Man. The next day, early morning, Tang San lay on the bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. True sorrow does not involve shouting or screaming, it only involves silent tears. Just like Tang San right now, tears couldn't stop sliding from the corners of his eyes. When his spirit shattered, he didn't cry. When he lost his dignity as a man, he didn't cry either. He didn't even cry after 2 consecutive years of bad luck. Today, he truly couldn't hold it back anymore. Those tears were like a bursting flood, impossible to stop no matter how hard he tried to control them. He didn't understand. Since the heavens gave him a chance to be reborn, why must they treat him like this? Recalling scene after scene from last night, Tang San's fists clenched involuntarily, and a strong murderous intent rose from the depths of his eyes. Damn bearded man, to dare treat me like this, you have already paved your own path to death. If I do not kill you, I, Tang San, swear I will not be a man. Tang San sat up, the bearded man was long gone. He walked into the bathroom. He frantically scrubbed his body and frantically rinsed his mouth. After washing for a full 2 hours, Tang San finally walked out of the bathroom. He walked to the bedside, preparing to put on his clothes. His gaze suddenly fell upon the gold coins on the nightstand. There were probably 100 or 200 of them. However, the gold coins were not the point. The point was the piece of paper pressed underneath them. Tang San picked it up to take a look. Little baby, Uncle really didn't expect that you actually didn't. Uncle really likes it so much. Uncle will come looking for you again. Click, click, click. Tang San instantly crumpled the letter into a ball. His knuckles cracked loudly as he squeezed, his expression one of gnashing teeth. Come then, I am waiting for you. You had better not make me wait too long. Afterward, he put on his clothes, picked up the gold coins he was entitled to, and left the hotel. Tang San returned to Notting Academy. Xiao Wu and the others had just finished washing up and were preparing to go to the cafeteria for breakfast. Tang San composed himself and walked up to Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu, I have money now. I can take you out to eat something delicious today. His tone was quite joyful, and his face was beaming with a happy smile. A trace of disgust flashed in the depths of Xiao Wu's eyes. Why did she feel disgust toward Tang San? Because even though Tang San had been trying his best to hide it, and even avoided using the restroom with Wang Sheng and the others, he still couldn't escape her perception. As a soft-bones demon rabbit that had taken human form, her perception of male hormones was extremely acute. She could clearly perceive that the male hormones on Tang San suddenly became extremely weak 2 years ago, and in the last 2 years, they had almost stopped secreting entirely. That meant he had been reduced to a neither male nor female existence. Including his teacher, who was the same. How could Xiao Wu not feel disgusted by such a neither male nor female existence? If not for the fact that he was willing to spend money on her, Xiao Wu would have stopped paying attention to him long ago. We'll see. Xiao Wu uttered the words indifferently and walked straight out of the dormitory. Xiao Wu, wait for me. Tang San hurriedly chased after her, leaving the other work-study students speechless. They truly couldn't understand Tang San. Even if a person were shameless, they shouldn't be shameless to this extent, right? Time flew by and it was afternoon. The carriage Lin Chen was riding in stopped at the entrance of Notting Academy. He stepped down from the carriage and happened to see Tang San carrying bags upon bags behind Xiao Wu as they walked into the academy. Tang San, Xiao Wu, please stop. Lin Chen did not hesitate and immediately called out to stop them. Tang San and Xiao Wu couldn't help but pause their steps. The two turned around and looked at Lin Chen, who was walking toward them with speechless expressions. The other party's please stop was truly a bit creepy. They had already reminded Lin Chen many times, but he simply wouldn't change. Calamity strike on Tang San and Xiao Wu successful, obtained 1 level of spirit power. Lin Chen's brows couldn't help but rise. Good heavens, it had been over 2 years, and he had finally farmed spirit power again. Tang San's bad luck has actually been broken. Lin Chen suddenly noticed that Tang San's dark forehead had become much brighter. However, in the next second, it was stained black again by a wisp of black aura. Lin Chen looked Tang San up and down, but saw that he acted like nothing had happened. That shouldn't be right. 5 instances of bad luck were not a small amount. How could he have no issues at all? Was the system this unreliable? Is there a problem? Seeing him constantly sizing him up, Tang San felt a sudden, inexplicable sense of dread. He was truly afraid that Lin Chen would suddenly say again that his bad luck was coming. He had already been unlucky enough. He really didn't want to encounter any more bad luck. He was really about to reach his breaking point. Lin Chen shook his head and said, "It's nothing, I'm just curious where you got so much money. These things aren't cheap, are they?" His gaze fell upon the numerous bags in Tang San's hands. Several of them had clothing store logos printed on them. And in Lin Chen's impression, the clothing from those shops was certainly not cheap. Especially the women's clothing. They cost over 12 gold coins at every turn. It was simply not something Tang San could afford. Ugh. Tang San's mouth twitched upon hearing this, and he felt a dull ache of trauma. This bastard, why does he always have to bring up sore subjects? Did you just get back? Xiao Wu suddenly asked, which could be considered helping Tang San out of a tight spot. Lin Chen nodded. Yes, I went out for a while. Xiao Wu looked Lin Chen up and down, a hint of suspicion in the depths of her eyes. You haven't already broken through, have you? Of course, she couldn't perceive Lin Chen's specific spirit power level. It was purely a guess. After all, Lin Chen had almost never traveled far in the past 2 years. The only reason she could think of for him to travel far was to hunt for a spirit ring. What? Upon hearing this, Tang San's eyes widened abruptly, his face full of disbelief. How could this be possible? They both had innate full spirit power. How could Lin Chen's cultivation speed be so fast? You have to know that he was only at level 18 now. Lin Chen, however, shook his head. How could it be that fast? Upon hearing this, Tang San immediately let out a sigh of relief. That's what he thought. How could Lin Chen's cultivation speed be that fast? Upon hearing this, Xiao Wu stopped asking and instead extended an invitation. Have you eaten? Do you want to join us? Perhaps because she hadn't developed any complicated love-hate entanglement with Tang San, the current Xiao Wu kept her mission for coming to the human world firmly in mind. And wanting to avenge, her mother was clearly not something she could achieve on her own. The two geniuses, Tang San and Lin Chen, were clearly both good assets. She had already gotten a handle on Tang San, so naturally she didn't want to let Lin Chen go either. Furthermore, Lin Chen not only had high talent, but he was also very handsome. The K was that he was also very wealthy. Compared to Tang San, Xiao Wu was more willing to interact with Lin Chen. Unfortunately, the other party simply wouldn't give her this opportunity. Every time he called out to her, he would leave after chatting for only a few sentences. Tang San turned his head abruptly to look at Xiao Wu. He had clearly just taken her out for a meal at a restaurant in the city, so why did she suddenly invite Lin Chen to have dinner together? Could it be? Tang San thought of a certain possibility, and his expression instantly turned gloomy. He turned his head to look at Lin Chen, his eyes filled with threats. As if saying, if you dare to agree, don't blame me for being impolite. Chapter 28, Angrily Confronting Xiaogang. Lin Chen glanced at Tang San, taking in the threat in his eyes. Over the past 2 years, setting aside what I said didn't need to be repaid, you've borrowed a total of 1,000 gold coins from me. When do you plan on paying that back? Huh? Tang San was stunned for a moment, then his eyes instantly cleared. His face was full of embarrassment, and he stuttered. Can you give me a little more time? As soon as I have it, I will definitely pay you back. Lin Chen looked at the many shopping bags in his hands. When you have money, you don't seem to remember that you still owe me. Tang San. He glanced at the shopping bags in his hands and lowered his head in shame. Lin Chen chuckled and walked away directly, ignoring Xiao Wu from start to finish. The only things about Xiao Wu that could interest him were her spirit ring and spirit bone. As for beauty or whatever, don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to Infinite Novel Audio. Not to mention she doesn't have it yet. Even if she did, it would be difficult to pique Lin Chen's interest. There are thousands upon thousands of beauties in the Douluo world. Why bother getting entangled with a hooligan rabbit? Seeing that Lin Chen actually ignored her, Xiao Wu was so angry that she gnashed her teeth. However, she was helpless. HMPH, what are you acting so arrogant for? She snorted coldly, turned around, and left without even glancing at Tang San. Xiao Wu, wait for me. Tang San snapped back to reality, shouted, and hurriedly chased after her. Lin Chen arrived downstairs at the dormitory building. As soon as he went up to the second floor, he saw a guy sneaking around, leaning against his dormitory door, seemingly eavesdropping on the movements inside. The sneaky guy was none other than Xiaogang. Oi, what are you doing? Lin Chen startled Xiaogang, who quickly turned to look at Lin Chen. The weather is quite nice today, isn't it? Xiaogang looked around as if he had a guilty conscience. Lin Chen was speechless and inadvertently swept his gaze over his forehead. It was very dark, even darker than Tang San's was earlier. If Lin Chen remembered correctly, he had already accumulated 7 instances of bad luck. Lin Chen didn't dare to call out to him anymore. Otherwise, if he wasn't careful, he might just call him to his death. With these 7 instances, he might not even be able to handle it. Say what you have to say. Lin Chen didn't know what kind of madness this guy was having today. In 2 years, this was the first time he had come to find him. Ahem. Xiaogang gave a dry cough, subconsciously puffed out his chest, then placed one hand behind his back, his expression gradually becoming serious and arrogant. If I'm not mistaken, you should have a second spirit, right? After much thought, Xiaogang still wanted to try to recruit Lin Chen. For this, he had made full preparations. Today was the day Lin Chen would fall at his feet. Lin Chen. This guy was treating him like Tang San, thinking he could trick him with a simple bluff. Sometimes I really wonder how you got your title of Grandmaster. Was it self-proclaimed? There have only been 2 people with twin spirits in history. Do you think they're just weeds on the side of the road? Lin Chen shook his head, his eyes full of suspicion and disdain. Seeing his reaction, Xiaogang's heart skipped a beat. Could I have really guessed wrong? Impossible, absolutely impossible. No matter how you look at it, the heavenly thunder whip couldn't possibly possess the ability to see through others' fortunes. He definitely still has a second spirit. Hes, knowing how to hide your talents is a good thing, but you can't fool me. Xiaogang smiled confidently. In my life, I have been devoted to the research of spirits and spirit master theories. I have researched more spirits than you have eaten meals. Your heavenly thunder whip might be good, but it absolutely cannot possess the ability to see through others' fortunes. So where does your ability to see through others' fortunes come from? Speaking of this, Xiaogang paused slightly. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, and he added in an extremely firm tone. Then there is only one truth, and that is that you have a second spirit, and your ability to see through others' fortunes was brought to you by your second spirit. He stared at Lin Chen with burning eyes. As if to say, admit it, you can't fool this Grandmaster of theory. Lin Chen opened his mouth, looking speechless. I say, Grandmaster, you've studied for most of your life, and this is all you've come up with. Xiaogang frowned. Lin Chen continued, have you studied spirits for most of your life, yet you don't even know that you must release your spirit to use the abilities corresponding to that spirit? Xiaogang was slightly stunned, his expression suddenly becoming ugly. Damn it, how could I have forgotten this point? Lin Chen added insult to injury with a look of disdain. If you don't have the skills, don't take on the job. Do you know how ridiculous you look like this? People flatter you a few times, and you really think you're a Grandmaster of theory. If you really had that ability, you wouldn't be holed up in this small Notting academy, and you certainly wouldn't be unable to even come up with pocket money for your disciple. Upon hearing this, Xiaogang was furious. He pointed at Lin Chen with a flushed face and shouted angrily. Presumptuous, are you questioning my talent? Lin Chen just smiled contemptuously. Talent? What talent? Is it teaching your disciple how to be a good simp? Later. The anger on Xiaogang's face froze instantly, and he opened his mouth several times but couldn't say a word. He was unable to refute this. Until now, he still hadn't figured out how his dating experience had turned into a simp manual in Tang San's hands. If he had discovered it early, it could have been saved, but by the time he discovered it, it was too late. Tang San was already completely addicted to simping. If Xiao Wu didn't pay attention to him for a moment, he would feel uncomfortable all over. No matter what Xiaogang said, Tang San wouldn't listen. Even if he did listen, as long as Xiao Wu gave him the cold shoulder, he would instantly throw it to the back of his mind and continue being a simp. It was fortunate that Tang Hao didn't know about Tang San's situation yet. If Tang Hao found out, he would at least lose a layer of skin, if not die. Lin Chen continued, if you want to be a qualified teacher, just pay back the 1,000 gold coins that Tang San owes me. How much? Xiaogang's eyes widened, and he looked at Lin Chen in disbelief. 1,000 gold coins. Are you kidding me? In just 2 short years, Tang San had actually spent 1,000 gold coins on Xiaowu Wu. That was a full 1,000 gold coins. Lin Chen sneered. What, you, a dignified Grandmaster of theory, can't even come up with this many gold coins? You really aren't up to much. Yu Xiaogang was speechless for a moment. If he could come up with 1,000 gold coins, would he still be sponging off Notting Academy for food and drink? However, for the sake of his face, he had to argue his case. How can academic theoretical knowledge be tainted by such dirty things as money? Yu Xiaogang looked disdainful, looking as if he regarded money as dirt. Lin Chen asked, when you say this, doesn't your conscience hurt? Yu Xiaogang frowned slightly. Lin Chen continued, the Dean of Notting Academy has spent who knows how much money to support you. Since you are so noble, then you should stop spending his money. Chapter 29, the round-faced bearded man reappears. Lin Chen twisted the logic and said, it's one thing to do nothing all day and just freeload, but to turn around and act like someone else's money is dirty is just too much. To have a friend like you is truly the worst luck in 8 lifetimes. You don't even have the ability to support yourself, yet you have the nerve to call yourself some kind of theoretical Grandmaster. Go wash up and go to sleep, stop coming out here and making a fool of yourself. As Lin Chen spoke, he stepped forward directly and shoved him aside. Yu Xiaogang tried to resist, but he didn't expect the other's strength to far exceed his imagination, sending him stumbling back and nearly falling to the ground. He looked at Lin Chen, who was taking out a key and opening the door, with a face full of shock. How is this possible? He is merely a one-ring spirit master. How could his strength be greater than mine, a spirit grandmaster? Is his spirit really that outrageous? Yu Xiaogang had originally wanted to take the opportunity to lash out and teach this ignorant kid a lesson, but now he felt a bit hesitant. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to beat Lin Chen. If a dignified spirit grandmaster lost to a one-ring spirit master, he would lose a lot of face. Bang! Lin Chen opened the door, walked into the dormitory, and closed it behind him, leaving Yu Xiaogang alone in the wind, disheveled. Damn it, I made so many preparations, and in the end, I didn't even get to use them. Yu Xiaogang clenched his fists tightly, his face twisted with malice. You just wait, one day I will let you know that not taking me, the Grandmaster, as your teacher will be the stupidest decision you've ever made in your life. Yu Xiaogang stared fixedly at Lin Chen's dormitory door, secretly swearing in his heart. Lin Chen didn't know what Yu Xiaogang was thinking. At this moment, he was already sitting cross-legged on the bed. System receive spirit power. Just as his thought landed, a surge of spirit power appeared out of thin air in his danshan. There was no need to refine it. It sank directly into his danshan, becoming his own unique spirit power. In no time at all, his level had broken through to level 23. Lin Chen opened his eyes and smiled slightly. Habitually checking his panel, he couldn't help but fall into deep thought. I don't know when Gangxi's bad luck will erupt, so it's not advisable to continue using Calamity Strike on him before that happens. As for Tang San, although he looks like nothing is wrong, the bad luck must have already erupted. I just don't know exactly how it manifested. Should I give him a break? But in an instant, Lin Chen threw this thought out of his mind. I already used Calamity Strike once at the school gate. Doing it a couple more times isn't a big deal. Xiaowu Wu, on the other hand. I don't know why, but Xiaowu Wu's stacked bad luck has never exceeded 3 times. Every time I use Calamity Strike, she consumes it very quickly. Just from this point of view, she looks much more like a child of destiny than Tang San. Then I'll just have to dote on Xiaowu Wu and Tang San more from now on. The corners of Lin Chen's mouth curled up slightly. Notting Academy has no classes in the afternoon. Work-study students are either working or cultivating in the dormitory. After Xiaowu Chenyu and the others graduated, naturally no one was left to help the work-study students with their chores. However, in order to fawn over Xiaowu Wu, Tang San has taken over all the work. It must be said, Tang San is still frugal. He would rather waste time helping with chores than pay the tuition fees. It's only because his teacher is Xiaogang. Otherwise, the academy would have long since cancelled their work-study student spots. After all, what kind of work-study student spends money so lavishly? After finishing his work, Tang San returned to the dormitory and happened to see his teacher coming down from upstairs. He wanted to run, but was called out by the other party. Little San. Tang San, like a child who had made a mistake, walked up to Xiaogang with his head bowed. Xiaogang angrily reprimanded him, wishing he could force him to improve. I heard from Lin Chen that you borrowed 1,000 gold coins from him and spent it all on Xiao Wu. Hearing this, Tang San's gaze couldn't help but turn cold. Damn Lin Chen, I only owe you 1,000 gold coins, right? Is it really necessary to go tell on me to my teacher? You caused me to be scolded by my teacher. You truly have already invited death upon yourself. He hated him so much his teeth were itching, but on the surface, he dared not show a trace of it. Teacher, don't listen to his nonsense. I spent that money myself. It has nothing to do with Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu never spends my money. Xiaogang was truly angered to the point of laughter by him. You spent it yourself. Then tell me, what did you do to spend 1,000 gold coins in just 2 years? If you can't give me a reasonable explanation today, then I can only call your father to come and deal with you. How could he, as his teacher, not know what kind of person Tang San is? Xiaogang wouldn't believe it, even if he were beaten to death, that he could have spent 1,000 gold coins in 2 years on his own. Don't! As soon as Tang San heard his teacher wanted to call his father, he became anxious. He didn't want to disappoint his father. Nor did he want his father to cause trouble for Xiao Wu because of this. Even if there was only a sliver of a chance. Teacher, I beg you don't tell my father, I know I was wrong. Seeing him like that, Xiaogang was furious. He had been wise his whole life, how did he end up teaching such a useless disciple? How many times do I have to tell you before you understand? That is not how you pursue a girl. You absolutely must not let her feel that you cannot lose her. That will only raise her status and make her act without fear, harming you without limit. Look at you now, being toyed with like a dog. Do you still not understand? The more Xiaogang spoke, the angrier he became, his fists clenched tightly. He wished he could give him a few hard slaps. Tang San lowered his head. Teacher, Xiao Wu is not as bad as you say. She has never hurt me, nor has she demanded anything. That was all my own doing. Xiaogang looked at him in disbelief, as if suspecting he had misheard. Xiaogang wanted to scold him but stopped, trembling as he pointed at him, unable to speak. Tang San raised his head and looked directly at Xiaogang. Teacher, Xiao Wu is not the kind of person you think. She is different. Xiaogang. This sounded familiar. It seemed Bibai Dong had said it before. But that was when she said it to Qian Zunji about him. Hopeless. Xiaogang flicked his sleeves and left, completely extinguishing any thought of waking Tang San up. Tang San was beyond saving. At this point, unless he killed Xiao Wu, nothing else would work. Tang San curled his lips and returned to Dorm 7. He sat on the edge of the bed, blankly watching Xiao Wu, who was sitting cross-legged on the bed cultivating. Hey. Watching her, he couldn't help but let out a silly laugh. On the other side, Xiaogang walked out of Notting Academy, intending to send a letter. But he didn't notice that a pair of eyes in the shadows were watching him. A useless person like this is worthy of being my little darling's teacher. HMPH, he truly has already invited death upon himself. Little darling, will you submit for the sake of your teacher? The round-faced bearded man hiding in the shadows couldn't help but reveal a wicked smile on his face. He walked out from the shadows and headed towards Xiaogang. Chapter 30, Tang San's Gradual Compromise. Tang San, someone outside the school asked me to give this letter to you. The gatekeeper brought a letter to Dorm 7. Tang San took it, his face full of confusion, wondering who would write to him. Could it be Dad? With a sense of doubt, he opened the unsigned letter. Little baby, did you miss me? Seeing the first few words, Tang San's complexion instantly darkened. His fists clenched involuntarily. Because of the excessive force, the edge of the letter paper was crushed by him. Your teacher is in my hands. Come to our usual spot to find me quickly. If you come late, your teacher will lose his life. You had better not play any tricks, otherwise the consequences will be very serious. After reading the contents of the letter, Tang San's expression changed drastically. That damned round-faced bearded man actually captured his teacher. He is truly courting death. It seems it is time to let people in this world witness the Tang sect's hidden weapons. Swish, swish, swish. Tang San silently tore the letter into shreds and threw it into the trash can. Then he walked to the bed and opened a bundle. Although he hadn't yet created any top-tier hidden weapons, he had plenty of poison needles, plus a spare silent sleeve dart. He had asked his teacher, if a spirit master does not use their spirit and spirit ability, their physical strength is not high. Let alone a mere spirit saint. Caught off guard, even a spirit Douluo might not be able to block his hidden weapons. However, there is one thing to note. That is, the higher the level of a spirit master, the higher their perception and agility. His hidden weapons are easily dodged. There is only one chance. Without certainty, one must not strike lightly. Tang San hid various poison needles all over his body, ensuring he could take them out from any position at any time. Then he glanced at Xiao Wu, who was sitting cross-legged on the bed, diligently cultivating. Hey. Tang San let out a foolish laugh, then turned and walked out of Dorm 7. Leaving the academy, Tang San sped all the way to the place of nightmares he had only just escaped this morning. Standing at the hotel entrance, he looked up and the sign that made his chrysanthemum involuntarily contract came into view. Rose Hotel. It is said that this hotel is the largest chain of love hotels in the Douluo Continent. 2. Tang San took a deep breath, adjusted his mindset, and stepped into the hotel lobby. He went upstairs familiarly and arrived outside the room from last night. Dongs, dongs, dong. Without too much hesitation, Tang San directly raised his hand and knocked on the door. The door isn't locked, come right in. The round-faced bearded man's voice rang out, making Tang San feel a wave of nausea. He pushed the door open and entered. Teacher. Seeing the scene inside the room clearly, Tang San could not help but exclaim out loud. He saw Xiaogang hanging stark naked from the room's ceiling, his whole body covered in bloodstains, with almost no intact skin to be found. His breathing was weak, and he was hovering between consciousness and unconsciousness. And the round-faced bearded man was standing beside him, holding a leather whip. Hearing Tang San's shout, Xiaogang's consciousness cleared slightly. He struggled to lift his head to look at Tang San, and a barely audible voice came from his mouth. Little San, save me. Damn it, what exactly do you want to do? Tang San was furious, looking at the round-faced bearded man with a heart full of rage. The round-faced bearded man just smiled slightly. He pointed to the room door behind Tang San, closed the door. Tang San gritted his teeth and turned to close the door. When he turned back around, he saw the round-faced bearded man holding something aimed at him. That object was none other than the silent sleeve dart. He had discovered that his silent sleeve dart was missing when he woke up this morning. Without needing to think, he knew it must have been taken by the round-faced bearded man. The round-faced bearded man looked at him with a smile. I studied this little gadget today. You have to say its power is quite good. At close range, even I am afraid I would suffer great loss. Tang San's complexion sank involuntarily. The silent sleeve dart is too simple. Anyone who gets it can easily use it. This isn't the key. The key is that the opponent is now prepared, and it will be difficult for him to launch a sneak attack again. The round-faced bearded man moved the sleeve dart away and aimed it at Xiaogang's head. His gaze also shifted to a certain place on Gangzi. I have to admit, your master-disciple relationship is truly enviable.
Crack, crack, crack.
Tang San clenched his fists involuntarily, his knuckles cracking from the pressure. Who the hell wants to lose their QQ? Wasn't that eaten by a hyena something that couldn't be helped? This bastard, he really knows how to rub salt in the wound. Isn't this just pure salt on his wound? Truly damned. The round-faced bearded man seemed not to see Tang San's ugly expression. A faint smile always hung on his face. Now take off all the clothes on your body, clean off. Not a single piece is allowed to remain. Since the opponent could have a sleeve dart, there might be other little gadgets on him. The round-faced bearded man dared not be careless. Otherwise, a dignified spirit saint falling into the hands of a brat. Wouldn't he be laughed to death? Damn it. Hearing this, Tang San could not help but curse inwardly. All of his poison needles were hidden in his clothes. If he took them all off, what would he use to counterkill the opponent? This bastard is too cautious, isn't he? Snap! Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to Infinite Novel Audio. Seeing him hesitate, the round-faced bearded man backhanded a whip onto Xiaogang, causing Xiaogang to let out a pig-like howl of pain. Damn it, don't you touch my teacher. Tang San was furious and immediately wanted to rush forward to save his teacher. Ahem. The round-faced bearded man raised an eyebrow and lifted his left hand to threaten him. Tang San's charging figure suddenly stopped. He clenched his fists tightly, his eyes bloodshot, staring at the bearded man with chilling killing intent. The round-faced bearded man asked, "Are you taking it off or not?" Tang San gritted his teeth, having an urge to strike directly. But he looked at his bloodied teacher. In the end, he dared not gamble. Once the gamble is lost, his teacher's life will be gone. I'll take it off. Tang San squeezed the two words out from between his teeth, gritting them. Then he began to take off his clothes slowly. During the process of taking off his clothes, he was constantly looking for an opportunity. Unfortunately, the opponent was as steady as an old dog, not giving him the slightest chance. Until he stripped off the last of his bindings. Turn around. The round-faced bearded man still did not let his guard down, demanding he turn around in place. Tang San could only comply. Throw everything over. While speaking, the round-faced bearded man hid behind Xiaogang. Seeing this, Tang San felt helpless. He could only pick up the clothes on the ground and throw them in front of him. The round-faced bearded man gathered all the clothes into his storage spirit tool. Now Tang San was truly out of options. The round-faced bearded man walked out from behind Xiaogang, looking at Tang San with a smile. Now come over, squat down. Hearing this, Tang San's pupils dilated sharply, his face full of disbelief. Some scenes from last night involuntarily surfaced from the depths of his memory. Chapter 31, Zyro Wu's Shocking Revelation. Bastard, don't even think about it. If you have the guts, just kill me. Tang San roared with a ferocious expression. Last night he had been deceived by the other party's spirit ability, which was unavoidable. Now the other party was actually demanding that he voluntarily engage in such filthy acts. Even if he, Tang San, died here today, he would never compromise with the other party. Hearing this, the round-faced bearded man's lips curled up slightly. I remember you still have a little girlfriend, right? Little baby, you wouldn't want me to change my taste and go look for her, would you? He hadn't been idle today. By just spending a little money, he had easily pried all the information about Tang San from the gatekeeper of Notting Academy. Precisely because of this, he had kidnapped Xiaogang and arranged to meet Tang San. Compared to forced harvesting, breaking him was much more interesting. He really wanted to know if he could truly turn Tang San. Bastard, just try touching her. The moment Tang San heard the other party mention Zyro Wu, his remaining shred of reason was instantly annihilated by rage. He charged recklessly toward the round-faced bearded man. The moment he rushed out, his right fist was already shrouded in a jade-white glow. Rushing up close, he slammed a fierce punch toward the round-faced, bearded man's face.
Bang!
The round-faced, bearded man lifted his leg and kicked straight out, moving faster than Tang San's attack. Tang San's body flew backward instantly, crashing against the wall before falling heavily to the ground.
Cough, cough.
Tang San clutched his chest, coughing continuously, with a trickle of blood spilling from the corner of his mouth. The round-faced, bearded man threatened coldly. "My patience is limited. I don't want to say the same thing a second time. Either submit or I will kill your teacher right now, and then go find that little girlfriend of yours." Xiaogang had originally thought that Tang San had offended the round-faced, bearded man outside. But through their exchange, he realized that wasn't the case at all. He didn't dare to speak or even make a sound. He was afraid of angering the round-faced, bearded man and getting dealt with as well. He was old, he couldn't withstand such humiliation. It was better to let Little San bear this kind of thing. As long as Little San served him well, he would naturally be saved. The only thing he could do was write a letter to Tang Hao after he was saved, and let Tang Hao come to avenge his son. Tang San silently closed his eyes, tears unable to be held back as they slid from the corners of his eyes. "God, why do you treat me like this? I was reborn with the heritage of the Tang sect. Shouldn't I be the child of destiny? Why must you make me suffer so many tribulations? My spirit is shattered, I'm castrated, and I'm being humiliated by this disgusting guy. God, are you *****ing blind?" Tang San didn't understand. He really didn't understand why his life was so bitter. Woo. When his emotions reached their peak, he could no longer suppress them and began to sob uncontrollably. Tears and snot smeared all over his face. The round-faced, bearded man wasn't in a rush, just watching him quietly. After crying, he should be ready to compromise, right? This feeling is indeed more pleasurable than forced harvesting. While pondering, the round-faced, bearded man glanced at Xiaogang beside him. That gaze made Xiaogang's sphincter tighten. No way, I'm this old, and I don't look like much either. He would not let me off, right? It won't happen, definitely not. He shouldn't be that hungry, right? Xiaogang was secretly pondering, and the round-faced, bearded man was also thinking. He's a bit old and a bit ugly, but after all, he has the identity of being the teacher of my little cutie, so I'll begrudgingly let him off easy this once. The round-faced, bearded man's lips curled up slightly. Tang San cried for a long time, but his sobbing gradually weakened, until it stopped completely. He slowly wiped away his tears and snot, and stood up from the ground. He stared at the round-faced, bearded man. "You need to add more money." Since he was powerless to resist, he might as well take the opportunity to demand more money. He needed to pay back the 1,000 gold coins to Lin Chen, otherwise that bastard would go around talking about it all day. He also needed money to buy gifts for Xiao Wu and take her out for delicious food. Hearing this, the round-faced, bearded man smiled slightly. "Money is not a problem. I lack everything except money." Tang San said firmly, "I want 3,000. The round-faced, bearded man was stunned for a moment, then nodded with a smile. "Sure. Who?" Tang San took a deep breath and then slowly walked in front of him. "Xiao Wu, please stay." Lin Chen was just about to go have breakfast when he happened to see Xiao Wu also heading to the cafeteria. Without hesitation, he immediately called out to her. Xiao Wu's footsteps paused, and after taking a deep breath, she turned around. "Lin Chen, are you sick or something? This bastard, every time he calls her over, he runs off without saying a few words. If that's not sick, what is?" Calamity strike on Xiao Wu successful, obtained 236 gold coins. Watching helplessly as the black energy drilled into the center of Xiao Wu's forehead, Lin Chen said indifferently, "I was thinking of treating you to breakfast, but since you're not willing, forget it." Hearing this, Xiao Wu was immediately overjoyed. I'm willing. She hopped and skipped over to Lin Chen, looking at him with her large, watery eyes. Lin Chen, however, said, "Now I don't want to treat you anymore." "You!" Zyro Wu was furious. She started to curse but swallowed the words back down. She really wanted to get on good terms with him, so she could only forcibly suppress the anger in her heart. But honestly, this bastard is really infuriating. Zyro Wu said irritably, "Then I'll treat you, is that okay?" Lin Chen glanced at her. "Forget it, your money." He didn't finish his sentence, but shook his head, the meaning quite clear. "You!" Zyro Wu was enraged, but suddenly realized something. So that's how it is. The reason Lin Chen didn't want to have too much contact with her might be because her attitude toward Tang San made him think she wasn't a good person. She thought, if she wanted to get on good terms with Lin Chen, she really needed to explain. "Lin Chen, I'm not the kind of person you think I am. There's a reason why I treat Tang San that way." Lin Chen asked curiously, "What reason?" To be honest, he was actually quite curious. The current Zyro Wu had a completely different personality from the original work. The key was that her personality changed too quickly. It was so fast that it made Lin Chen somewhat suspicious. It wasn't just as simple as Tang San elevating her status. There might be other reasons he didn't know about. Hearing this, Zyro Wu looked left and right, acting mysterious. After confirming there was no one around, she looked at Lin Chen. "If I tell you, you mustn't tell anyone else." Lin Chen nodded. "Don't worry, I'm naturally tight-lipped." Zyro Wu whispered, "Tang San is not a man."
Huh?
Lin Chen was dumbfounded, not quite understanding what she meant by that sentence. What did she mean by Tang San is not a man? Did he transmigrate not into a proper Douluo world, but some kind of eroded Douluo world? That shouldn't be right. That guy, no matter how you looked at it, didn't seem like the type to have anything to do with women. Which part went wrong? Chapter 32, Lin Chen, do you want to die? I don't know why, but the male hormone aura on Tang San suddenly weakened drastically 2 years ago, and now it has stopped secreting altogether. He can no longer be considered a man. Zyro Wu did not hide anything and explained it directly. Lin Chen stared at her, dumbfounded, and remained silent for a long time. 2 years ago. Wasn't that the time when Tang San first arrived in New Uding City? And during that time, Tang San's greatest stroke of bad luck was none other than that trip to the Hunting Soul Forest. Lin Chen suddenly recalled the scene where Gangzi was scared into peeing himself by a single word from him. No wonder he reacted so strongly. It seems that the outbreak of bad luck that time was even more exaggerated than he had imagined. It's just that. What reason could have caused Tang San's hormones to stop secreting? Lin Chen pondered to himself. 95% of male hormone secretion comes from the QQ. Could it be that Tang San's QQ was uninstalled? Hiss. Thinking of this possibility, Lin Chen couldn't help but gasp. Tang San, has he become a eunuch? Zyro Wu continued to explain, "This is an ability bestowed upon me by my spirit, and it will absolutely not be wrong. Furthermore, it is not just Tang San, his teacher is the same." Lin Chen. Good grief, I didn't expect Gangzi to have also become a eunuch. This is simply unbelievable. That shouldn't be right. Could it be that Tang Hao did not follow them in secret? Otherwise, how could they have fallen into such a state? Zyro Wu said righteously, "Now you know why I treated him that way, right? He is a neither man nor woman guy. It is very difficult for me to be friends with him. As for the matter of spending his money, at first I refused, but whenever I refused, he would keep asking me why, asking me if he hadn't done something well there." Zyro Wu spread her hands. What could I do? Lin Chen couldn't help but roll his eyes at her. In his memory, Tang San lived his previous life in vain. He didn't understand love at all. Initially, Tang San did not have any unusual feelings for Zyro Wu. How could he possibly turn into a simp directly? Zyro Wu's words definitely contained elements of self-glorification. As for how much is true and how much is false, who knows? It is just that Lin Chen did not know that the butterfly effect had already occurred. Seeing this, Xiao Wu became anxious. Don't you disbelieve me, what I said is all true. It really is him who insisted on giving it for me to spend. Lin Chen smiled slightly. You don't need to explain, whether it's true or false, what does it have to do with me? Xiao Wu. This bastard is really infuriating, I really want to bite him hard. Lin Chen said no more and walked straight towards the cafeteria. HMPH. Xiao Wu couldn't help but snort coldly and shamelessly followed him. On the other side, Xiaogang and Tang San woke up in the messy hotel room. The two stared quietly at the ceiling, their eyes filled with sadness. Tang San was actually all right. Compared to the first time, he felt much better this second time. He didn't look as unbearable as it might seem. He turned his head to look at Xiaogang. Teacher, are you okay? Teacher is quite old, and he didn't know if he could handle it. He wouldn't try to commit suicide, would he? Xiaogang said nothing, tears silently sliding down from the corners of his eyes. He didn't understand, he really didn't understand. What sins did he commit in his previous life, for God to punish him like this in this life? His spirit mutated poorly, and he fell from being the high and mighty blue lightning young master to a waste, ridiculed by his clansmen and even the entire spirit master's world. He was about to achieve a happy ending with the woman he loved, only to find out she was his own cousin. Approaching the age of 60, his QQ was uninstalled again. Now he was treated like this by a beast, losing his integrity in his twilight years. And it was together with his own disciple. How could he reach the other shore in this life of walking on thin ice? Woo. Thinking about it, Xiaogang couldn't help but burst into loud sobs. He cried in such a heart-wrenching way. Sigh. Seeing his heartbroken appearance, Tang San couldn't help but sigh. As someone who had been through it, he could deeply understand the other person's current mood. It was just that he was not good with words and didn't know how to comfort his teacher. He sat up and subconsciously looked at the bedside table. Sure enough, just like this morning, a pile of gold coins was placed there. However, the quantity was far greater than this morning. Similarly, under the gold coins, a piece of letter paper was still pressed. Tang San picked up the letter paper and took a look. Little baby, this money should be enough for you to spend for a while. Uncle needs to leave for a while. The return date is uncertain. Don't miss Uncle too much. After reading the letter, there was not much anger on Tang San's face. He silently tore the letter paper into pieces. Tang San glanced at Xiaogang and then walked into the bathroom. This time, he spent less than 20 minutes. When he came out of the bathroom, Xiaogang had already stopped crying. But he was still lying there with dull eyes. Seeing this, Tang San couldn't help but shake his head and silently put on his clothes. Teacher, rest well, I'm returning to the academy first. Xiao Wu was still waiting for him, he couldn't waste too much time here. Xiaogang did not respond. Tang San walked to the bed and wrapped half of the gold coins in the corner of his clothes. Then he looked at Xiaogang. Teacher, take this money and spend it. You can use it for food, drinks, and entertainment. Xiaogang turned his head away. Looking at the mountain of gold coins, he finally felt a little better. At least there was still some gain, right? Teacher, I'm leaving first. Tang San didn't stay too long and walked straight out of the hotel. After leaving the hotel, he ran wildly all the way. However, although his speed was already very fast, it was still too late when he returned to Dorm 7. There was no one in Dorm 7. They must be in the cafeteria. As Tang San thought to himself, he put the extra gold coins into his bundle. Then he quickly arrived at the cafeteria. He didn't see anyone on the first floor of the cafeteria, so he went straight to the second floor. The moment he stepped onto the second floor, he was struck by lightning. He froze in place instantly. Crack, crack, crack. Hard, Tang San's fists hardened, and the sound of his knuckles cracking followed. He looked at the scene in the distance with a ferocious expression. He saw Xiao Wu and Lin Chen sitting opposite each other. Xiao Wu was full of smiles, chattering away about something to Lin Chen opposite her. Even if the other person didn't seem very interested, it couldn't stop her enthusiasm. Damn Lin Chen. I've been suffering to earn money outside, and this bastard is actually stealing my home. He is simply asking for death. Tang San panted like an ox, and the veins on his neck bulged. He walked towards the two with a gloomy face and murderous intent. Lin Chen saw Tang San and felt a little helpless in his heart. This hooligan rabbit is really harmful. Can't you go to the wild to find a male rabbit when you are in heat? Why do you have to stick to me? Tang San walked angrily to the table of the two and slammed his hand onto the dining table. Bang! The groaning of the dining table immediately attracted the attention of everyone in the cafeteria. Lin Chen, do you want to die? Tang San stared coldly at Lin Chen, his eyes as sharp as blades. Chapter 33, The Shameless Tang San. Before Lin Chen could even speak, Xiao Wu suddenly stood up. What are you acting crazy for so early in the morning? She glared at Tang San, her eyes an expression full of disgust. Tang San looked at Xiao Wu with disbelief in his eyes. He had spent so much money on Xiao Wu, yet she was actually yelling at him for Lin Chen's sake. Why? Why could Lin Chen easily win Xiao Wu's favor without spending a single cent, while he worked himself to death and couldn't even get a smile from her? Why? Seeing this, the many students in the cafeteria couldn't help but whisper among themselves. Those whispers and those burning gazes made Tang San feel so ashamed that he wished he could find a crack in the ground to crawl into. Meanwhile, Lin Chen's gaze fell upon Tang San's forehead. Another calamity strike has occurred. He looked Tang San up and down but didn't see any injuries. Facing misfortune twice in a row, he was actually acting like nothing had happened. This system was becoming increasingly incomprehensible. Xiao Wu. Tang San had just started to speak when Xiao Wu forcibly interrupted him. Shut up. You won't even let someone eat breakfast in peace, don't you think you're annoying? Seeing Xiao Wu get angry, Tang San panicked. Xiao Wu, I'm sorry, don't be angry, I just saw you and Lin Chen. Xiao Wu impatiently interrupted. Who are you to me? Who I'm with has nothing to do with you. Tang San stopped mid-sentence, not knowing what to say for a moment. That's right, what was he to Xiao Wu? When it came down to it, they were just classmates. Xiao Wu couldn't be bothered to pay attention to him anymore. She looked at Lin Chen and said, I'm finished eating, I'll be going now. After saying that, she left without looking back. Xiao Wu. Tang San had no eyes for Lin Chen anymore and immediately chased after her. Xiao Wu, don't be angry, I really didn't mean it that way. They reached the top of the stairs. Tang San explained while reaching out to grab Xiao Wu. Don't touch me, you're so annoying. Xiao Wu violently shook off his hand, but she used a bit too much force. Her foot slipped and she immediately tumbled down the stairs. Xiao Wu was terrified and immediately tried to stabilize herself by performing a backflip. Xiao Wu. Tang San was terrified and lunged to grab the falling Xiao Wu. It would have been fine if he hadn't grabbed her, but his grab disrupted her momentum. And because of the force from the flip, he pulled himself down as well. Thump, thump, thump. The two of them were tangled together, rolling down the stairs like a ball. Lin Chen. Two spirit masters actually having an accident like tripping. That really is hard to keep a straight face. Oof, thud. Tang San and Xiao Wu rolled and bumped all the way down, both of them screaming in pain. Bang! Finally, they fell heavily onto the first floor, their heads making intimate contact with the floor. Oof! Xiao Wu felt pain everywhere and couldn't help but let out a groan. Xiao Wu, are you okay? Tang San had a large bump on his forehead, but he couldn't care about himself. He hurriedly got up and helped Xiao Wu up. but he saw that Xiao Wu was already covered in bruises. Her face was black and blue. And that was just the visible parts. The parts that weren't visible were probably just as bad. Xiao Wu shoved Tang San away. "Are you ****ing sick? Why did you pull me?" She was so furious. If not for that pull from Tang San, she definitely wouldn't have fallen. Tang San wanted to defend himself, but the words wouldn't come out. He could only hang his head in shame. Seeing him like that, Xiao Wu was even more infuriated. "I beg you, stop pestering me, okay? Lin Chen told you long ago that Grandmaster is a jinx. But you wouldn't listen. Don't you have any idea how much bad luck we've had these past 2 years? You might not be afraid, but I am." Ever since she was almost killed by a bone, Xiao Wu had kept Lin Chen's words in mind. Unfortunately, no matter how she guarded herself, she couldn't defend against Tang San, the disciple of that jinx. He was like a plaster, doing everything he could to stick to her. Sometimes she really wanted to quit school and move to another city to live. Hearing her say this, Tang San recalled Lin Chen's words from back then. Is teacher really a jinx? He really hadn't had it easy these past 2 years. Big and small disasters had been almost constant. This made him have to start doubting. But doubt was doubt. For him to betray his master because of this was impossible. A teacher for a day is a father for life. Even if he died, he would never be a traitor who betrayed his master and ancestors. He couldn't bear such a reputation. HMPH. Xiao Wu turned and walked away, and Tang San instinctively wanted to follow. But she stopped him with a shout. "Don't follow me." Tang San's right leg, which he had just stepped forward, froze in midair. He stared at the receding Xiao Wu. Crack, crack, crack. Tang San's fists clenched involuntarily, and his eyes gradually grew cold. "Damn Lin Chen, it's all because of him. If he wasn't coveting my Xiao Wu, how could I have made her angry? If Xiao Wu wasn't angry, none of this would have happened." The more Tang San thought about it, the angrier he got. He turned around and headed upstairs to cause trouble for Lin Chen. But just as he looked up, he happened to see Lin Chen coming down from upstairs. He didn't say anything, just blocked the staircase. Lin Chen stood on the 3rd step, looking down at the cold-eyed Tang San. "What, did you gather the money?" His tone was calm, yet carried a hint of mockery. Tang San's fists tightened instinctively. However, he thought to himself that this was the perfect opportunity to beat him up and vent his anger. "After school, come to the small woods behind the mountain to get your money. Remember, if you don't come, don't go around saying I borrowed money and didn't pay it back." Tang San didn't hide his intentions at all. The corner of his mouth even curled into a playful smirk, looking as if he had Lin Chen in the palm of his hand. When people are speechless, they really do laugh. Lin Chen couldn't hold it back. How could a person be so shameless? How could this guy have the face to say something like that? Tang San chuckled as well and turned to leave. Tang San, wait. Lin Chen didn't hesitate or show any pity and immediately called out to him. Upon hearing this, Tang San shuddered. He turned around and glared at Lin Chen, who was still standing on the stairs, through gritted teeth. "Spit it out." Calamity strike on Tang San successful, obtained ultimate skill, silent shadow instant kill. Heaven watches what man does. Don't be too shameless as a person, or you will face retribution. A faint smile hung on Lin Chen's face. The smile wasn't exaggerated, but it made his current mood clear. He seemed very pleased. Tang San didn't understand why he wasn't angry, but instead was laughing so happily. "That's none of your concern." After saying that, Tang San turned and left. Lin Chen didn't call out to him again, but instead immediately gave the system the command to receive the ultimate skill. Chapter 34, Flender's Thoughts. Just as Lin Chen's thought finished, a massive amount of memory information surged into his mind. Silent Shadow Instant Kill. Soundless and traceless, it instantly teleports the user behind the target to deliver a fatal blow. For every 10 levels the spirit power increases, the distance increases by 100 meters.
Hiss, so strong.
Lin Chen couldn't help but gasp, his brows involuntarily relaxing. Teleportation is a divine skill in any world. Although Xiaogang Wu's teleportation is also quite good, it has various limitations. For example, distance and frequency. However, Silent Shadow Instant Kill has absolutely none of those limitations. Once he reaches level 90, he will be able to. Silent Shadow Instant Kill has an initial range of 100 meters. If he can reach level 90, he will be able to teleport within 1,000 meters. The most crucial part is that as long as his spirit power is not exhausted, he can keep using it. The Douluo World is famous for high attack and low defense. The attack doesn't seem that high either. But that's not the point. The point is a 1,000-meter range flying thunder god technique. Who could block that? Relying solely on this ultimate technique. Caught off guard, no one below the level of a spirit saint should be able to block his surprise attack. As for those above the level of a spirit saint, spirit masters at the spirit saint level and above will see a qualitative leap in their overall strength. Only by trying will he know. It specifically depends on how they react. If it doesn't work, then he'll have to kneel. However, without activating his spirit, it shouldn't be much of a problem. Douluo spirit masters are too reliant on their spirits.
Hiss.
Lin Chen smiled slightly and walked toward the dormitory building in a relaxed and happy mood. As for Tang San's challenge, it would be incredibly simple for him to deal with a little punk like that. He wouldn't even need to activate his spirit. However, he didn't plan to fight him, mainly because he didn't want to expose too much of his strength. Let Xiaogang Wu handle it. For this kind of simp, he needs his goddess to deal with him. It might be a bit manipulative, but it's not a big problem. But they are still in class right now. It's not too late to wait until after school. On the other side, don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to Infinite Novel Audio. Xiaogang finally composed his mood and walked out of the hotel entrance. He didn't rush back to the academy, but went straight to a post station. He sent out the letter he had written. The letter wasn't written to Tang Hao, but to Flender, who was far away in Suchu City. At first, Xiaogang actually wanted to ask Tang Hao to deal with that beast. But on second thought, he felt it wasn't appropriate. After Tang Hao came to kill that beast, he definitely wouldn't stay long before leaving. After taking down the round-faced bearded man, there might be some square-faced bearded man. He had been so unlucky these past 2 years, he severely lacked a sense of security. He needed a bodyguard. Speaking of bodyguards, the first person Xiaogang thought of was his good brother. Anyway, he planned to take Tang San and Xiaogang Wu to Flender's place in the future. What was wrong with having him come over early to protect these two with innate full spirit power? If it weren't for the fact that 2 graduates with innate full spirit power were too important to Notting Academy, he would have wanted to take Tang San and the other away right now. The Notting Academy dean had supported him for so many years. How could he do something like poaching? If this matter got out, would he still have any face left? That's not how friends treat each other either. So he could only trouble Flender to make a trip and come to Notting City to be a bodyguard for a few years. After sending the letter, Xiaogang finally returned to the academy. In the Douluo Continent, letters and intelligence are sent using domesticated Shadow Extreme Red Falcons. The speed is extremely fast. Before noon, Xiaogang's letter had already reached Flender's hands. 2 individuals with innate full spirit power. Flender stood up abruptly, his face filled with disbelief. Since when did innate full spirit power become so worthless? What did you say? Zhao Wuji, who was lying on a recliner, also sat up abruptly after hearing his words. He looked at Flender with a shocked expression. He seemed to have just heard something about 2 individuals with innate full spirit power. Flender looked at him after finishing the letter, his face beaming with a joyful smile. I have a friend who found 2 geniuses with innate full spirit power for our academy. However, due to some reasons, they need to graduate from the primary academy before coming over. He hopes I can go over there and ensure the safety of those 2 children. Zhao Wuji's eyes widened. What else is there to say? Go quickly, innate full spirit power is rare. Flender hesitated upon hearing this. I'm wondering if I should take little Ao and the others along, let them go early to get used to those 2 geniuses, and also receive some systematic education. Zhao Wuji couldn't help but roll his eyes. Getting used to them is fine, but what kind of systematic education does a primary spirit master academy have? Isn't it just some knowledge that is as basic as it gets? Flender smiled contemptuously. The systematic education I'm talking about doesn't refer to the academy system, but to my friend. He is no ordinary person. Zhao Wuji couldn't help but be stunned, then seemed to think of something. Your friend, wouldn't that be Xiaogang, one of your golden triangle? As Flender's friend, Zhao Wuji naturally knew about the golden triangle. He had also heard of Xiaogang's reputation. Flender nodded and said, although he is heavily criticized in the Spirit Master's world, he comes from the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect after all, and he has also studied in Spirit City. When it comes to knowledge and learning, we rogue cultivators can't compare to him. Letting little Ao and the others go learn from him definitely won't do any harm. Zhao Wuji nodded, agreeing with his words. Spirit masters from big families and big forces might not necessarily beat rogue cultivators like them in pure strength, but they have a natural advantage in insight and knowledge. How could bottom-tier spirit masters ever touch the heritage accumulated by their ancestors over many generations? Zhao Wuji stood up. Since you're taking the 3 of them, I'll go with you to avoid any accidents. Let old Li and the others stay back home. Flender nodded. Fine, go notify the 3 of them, and I'll go pack. All right. Zhao Wuji agreed and left, quickly finding the 3, Dai Mubai and the others. Oscar and Ma Hongjun had joined Shrek Academy when they were very young, so they naturally had no objections to Zhao Wuji and Flender's arrangements. Although Dai Mubai hadn't been there long, he was still in a state of giving up on himself, so he was fine with anywhere and didn't have any major objections. After everyone simply packed some changes of clothes, they left the academy with Flender. Although Flender was stingy by nature, the distance for this trip was not short, so he finally endured the heartache and rented a carriage in Suqiu City. Nuoding City, Notting Academy. The bell for the end of class rang, and students from every grade walked out of their classrooms one after another. It was rare for Tang San not to stick to Xiao Wu. He headed straight toward the small woods behind the mountain. Seeing this, Xiao Wu frowned slightly. It wasn't that she wasn't used to it, but she was curious about why he was going to the back mountain. The small woods behind the mountain was the tacitly understood place for students of Notting Academy to challenge each other. Who did Tang San challenge? Putting herself aside, looking at all the many students in Notting Academy, perhaps only Lin Chen was qualified to fight him. Xiao Wu, please stay. The suddenly ringing shout startled Xiao Wu, making her shudder. Subconsciously, she squeezed her legs together. Chapter 35, Xiao Wu, the dog training expert. Xiao Wu turned to look at Lin Chen, her expression one of utter speechlessness. Seriously, can't you change your lines? Calamity strike on Xiao Wu successful, obtained 68 gold coins. Lin Chen rolled his eyes at her and got straight to the point. Your simp invited me to the backyard to fight, saying if I didn't go, he wouldn't pay me back. You caused this, so you go solve it. What? How could he be so shameless? Upon hearing this, Xiao Wu was greatly shocked. She truly hadn't expected Tang San to have this side to him. Lin Chen said, whether he thinks I'm afraid or whatever else, it doesn't matter. Just tell him not to bother me, that's all. I don't have the energy to deal with him. Xiao Wu nodded. Fine. Don't worry, I guarantee he won't come to bother you again in the future. Otherwise, I'll personally help you teach him a lesson. Xiao Wu felt that Lin Chen was already willing to take the initiative to ask her for help. This was a good start. If this kind of interaction happened a few more times, their relationship would naturally grow closer. All right, I'll be going then. Lin Chen was in a rush to eat, so he had no intention of chatting for long. Okay. Xiao Wu didn't say much else. Some things couldn't be rushed. The backyard. Tang San stood quietly in the center of the clearing, gazing toward the direction of the mountain foot. He imitated Xiaogang by clasping his hands behind his back. He deliberately stiffened his face, putting on a stern, unsmiling appearance. This was the demeanor of an expert as he understood it. At the same time, he was pondering in his heart. Should he beat him up directly or give a warning before attacking? While Tang San was deep in thought, he suddenly saw Xiao Wu storming up the mountain. Wait, why is Xiao Wu here? The moment he saw Xiao Wu, Tang San's heart skipped a beat. It couldn't be that dog Lin Chen went to Xiao Wu to snitch, could it? He could no longer be bothered with maintaining his pose and hurriedly stepped forward to meet her. Xiao Wu, why are you here? Tang San's expression was somewhat unnatural. The words guilty conscience were clearly written on his face. Xiao Wu said coldly, you think you're pretty good at fighting, huh? Tang San immediately understood. It must have been that dog Lin Chen who went to Xiao Wu. He just didn't understand. Both possessing innate full spirit power, why was that dog so cowardly? It's a pity he's even a man. Xiao Wu, Tang San wanted to explain something, but the words reached his lips and he didn't know where to start. You what, you? He is a fellow villager of yours after all, and he was generous when you were short on money. It's one thing that you don't know how to be grateful, but you actually wanted to cause him trouble. Do you have no bottom line as a person? And another thing, if you don't come, I won't pay you back. How did you have the face to say that? I really didn't expect you to be such an ungrateful, shameless villain. Xiao Wu started berating him directly, without the slightest mercy. Tang San's pupils dilated involuntarily, and he felt as if he had been struck by lightning. What kind of person you are actually has nothing to do with me. I have no right to lecture you or control you. Whether you want to beat him up or kill him, that's up to you. But you listen to me carefully. Xiao Wu will absolutely not be friends with such a despicable villain. Xiao Wu used a retreat to advance tactic, not intending to forcefully demand or order him. Tang San, hearing that Xiao Wu intended to cut ties with him, immediately panicked. Don't, Xiao Wu, I was wrong. I'll go apologize to him right now. I'll pay him back immediately. Please don't ignore me, okay? In his haste, Tang San subconsciously stepped forward, wanting to grab Xiao Wu's hand. Xiao Wu stepped back to avoid him. Don't touch me, I find it disgusting. Boom! Xiao Wu's words were like a bolt from the blue, exploding in Tang San's mind. He stood there, stunned. At this moment, he was truly afraid. He was afraid of losing Xiao Wu. He was afraid that Xiao Wu would never talk to him again. Xiao Wu. Tang San's voice choked up, and his eye sockets turned slightly red. Xiao Wu's tone softened. Tang San, you can't act like this. Who would dare to be friends with an ungrateful person? You are still young, it's not too late to change now. Hearing this, a glimmer of light finally appeared in Tang San's eyes, and he blurted out. I'll change immediately. I'll go apologize to him right now, I'll pay him back immediately. I guarantee I can get his forgiveness. Hearing this, a look of relief finally appeared on Xiao Wu's face. And that smile left Tang San completely dumbfounded. Hey. He couldn't hold it back and let out a laugh like a lovesick fool. Xiao Wu felt speechless, even disgusted, but didn't show it. Go on, I hope you're not just saying it with your mouth. Otherwise, speaking of this, Xiao Wu's expression suddenly became serious again. Otherwise, I will never talk to you again. Tang San's expression also instantly became serious, and a hint of determination appeared between his brows. Zyro Wu, don't worry, I will absolutely not let you down. Zyro Wu shook her head. It's not about letting me down, but rather don't let yourself down. Character is your foundation for standing in the world. A person without character, no matter how strong their power is, will not be recognized by everyone. Tang San felt that there was nothing wrong with what Zyro Wu said, although he didn't think there was anything wrong with his own character either. Lin Chen was asking for death himself, he couldn't blame him. Of course, Tang San definitely didn't dare to retort, and could only nod heavily. I understand. Zyro Wu, seeing that he seemed to really understand, didn't continue to harp on this topic. Apologizing requires sincerity, no need to rush, let's go eat first. Okay. Tang San smiled sweetly and followed Zyro Wu down the mountain, looking like a happy puppy. Afternoon. After cleaning up, Tang San, following Zyro Wu's instructions, bought a gift for Lin Chen, and then brought 1,000 gold coins to the outside of his dormitory. Knock, knock, knock. Lin Chen heard the knocking, got up, went to the door, and opened the dormitory door. Seeing Tang San, Lin Chen immediately felt unlucky. What the hell is Zyro Wu doing? Can't she even handle one simp? Tang San extended both hands, one holding a money bag, the other a gift. Lin Chen, I'm here to apologize. You and I are from the same hometown, and you helped me when I was in difficulty. I shouldn't have been ungrateful and caused you trouble. This is the 1,000 gold coins I borrowed from you, as well as a gift I bought. I'm sorry. After speaking, Tang San held up the money bag and the gift, and bowed deeply. He didn't think he was wrong, nor was he willing to apologize to Lin Chen so humbly. It was just to avoid Zyro Wu getting angry, to avoid Zyro Wu ignoring him. He could only suppress his displeasure and lower his posture to apologize to Lin Chen. Lin Chen was completely dumbfounded. Good grief. A verbal apology would have been one thing, but he actually bowed 90 degrees. Is this Tang San? Who would have thought, Zyro Wu is actually a dog training expert? Lin Chen really hadn't seen that coming. Forget the gift, there was no grudge between us to begin with. Lin Chen didn't act haughty either, he said this after taking the money bag. Fine, I'm leaving then. Tang San turned and left immediately. Even a fool could see what his sincerity was actually like. Tang San, please stay. Chapter 36, Conflict at the Academy Gate. Tang San's pace faltered, and his expression darkened accordingly. I'm already this unlucky, can't that damn bad luck just stay away from me? Does it have to kill me before it's satisfied? Tang San's fists clenched involuntarily, and he gritted his teeth tightly. Sometimes he really wanted to pretend he hadn't heard anything and walk away without looking back. Unfortunately, he didn't dare. Because that bastard Lin Chen didn't say, bad luck is coming, every time, making it impossible for him to judge which instance was actually imminent bad luck. If it wasn't, that would be fine, but if it was, he would be caught unprepared. Who knows what he would encounter when the bad luck arrived? Often, it was the unknown that was the most terrifying. Who? Tang San took a deep breath, then turned to look at Lin Chen. Is there a problem? Both his eyes and tone carried a hint of apprehension. Calamity strike on Tang San successful, obtained one system-granted spirit ring. Lin Chen smiled. Nothing much, I bought some fruit, do you want to take some down to eat? Tang San's expression froze instantly. I really want to beat you up, I even want to renege on your money and not pay it back. And you're still asking me to eat fruit. Are you sick in the head? I'll eat your... Tang San was truly on the verge of a breakdown. He really couldn't understand, did this guy have no temper at all? Of course, he only dared to curse in his heart. No need. Tang San spat out these two words viciously, then turned and walked away. Lin Chen smiled slightly. He just liked watching Tang San look at him with displeasure, yet be completely helpless. He retreated back to his dormitory and closed the door. Lin Chen opened his system backpack and looked at the 2 system-granted spirit rings. The corners of his mouth curled up involuntarily. At this rate, he shouldn't be short of 100,000 year spirit rings in the future. Closing the system backpack, Lin Chen opened the money bag. Looking at the 1,000 gold coins inside, he couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Where did Tang San get so many gold coins? Whatever, why think so much? Being able to get them back is a good thing after all. Lin Chen smiled and put the gold coins into his system backpack. Then he sat cross-legged on the bed and began to cultivate. Over the next 2 days, Lin Chen went all out, hitting Tang San with calamity strikes 6 times in just 2 days, not even giving him a chance to recover. And Xiaogang Wu, who was with him every day, was also implicated. Their foreheads were now as black as ink. It was conceivable that this outbreak of bad luck would be exceptionally fierce. Xiaogang, who hid in the dormitory every day and had Tang San bring his meals back, had luckily escaped a disaster. On this day, Flender and the others finally arrived at Notting Academy. "Hey boss Dai Oscar, look, that girl looks pretty good." Ma Hongzhen tugged at Dai Mubai and bumped into Oscar. He didn't lower his voice, and his eyes roamed unscrupulously over that girl, completely unaware of what politeness was. Flender and Zhao Wuji heard it and saw it. But they didn't say anything more. Not daring to cause trouble is for the mediocre. This was their academy's teaching philosophy. Dai Mubai and Oscar looked in the direction of the voice. They saw a boy in a white school uniform who looked dark and swarthy, and a girl in a pink dress who looked extremely pure, walking out of the school gate together. They weren't very old, looking at most 8 or 9 years old. The 2 were none other than Tang San and Xiaogang Wu. Ma Hongzhen didn't restrain himself at all, so naturally, the 2 couldn't have missed it. Xiaogang Wu didn't think much of it, but Tang San couldn't stand it. "Damn fatty, are you looking to die?" Tang San looked coldly at Ma Hongzhen, ignoring Flender and Zhao Wuji completely. His father was a titled Douluo, so there was nothing that could make him feel afraid. Ma Hongzhen didn't get angry upon hearing this, and mocked with a smile. "Yo, you're pretty arrogant. Kid, listen well, me looking at your girl is your good fortune. Don't bring trouble upon yourself." Dai Mubai and the others didn't stop him, instead crossing their arms and waiting to watch the show. Flender and Zhao Wuji held the same attitude. Tang San narrowed his eyes, a trace of killing intent emerging from the depths of his pupils. But when his gaze fell on Flender and Zhao Wuji, he hesitated slightly. Xiaogang Wu didn't have as many concerns as him, and her figure rushed out instantly. That damn fatty actually dared to say she was Tang San's girl. It was simply a path to death. Today, she absolutely had to teach him a lesson. Xiaogang Wu. Tang San was shocked and wanted to reach out to stop her, but it was already too late. Xiaogang Wu had already rushed in front of Ma Hongzhen. Before the other party could react, she had already bent her right knee, her toes snapped out instantly, kicking straight towards Ma Hongzhen's chin. "Little girl, are you so impatient to throw yourself into my arms?" Ma Hongzhen didn't take her seriously at all. While teasing her, he reached out his right hand, grabbing straight towards Xiaogang Wu's ankle. He thought it was a guaranteed grab, but unexpectedly, a change occurred. Just as he grabbed Xiaogang Wu's ankle, he suddenly felt his hand slip. Following that, Xiaogang Wu's leg, which had missed, swung horizontally and landed on his shoulder. Xiaogang Wu pressed down with her right leg to gain leverage, leaped up, and lifted her other leg, hooking it onto the other side of Ma Hongzhen's shoulder. She was as slippery as a loach. Ma Hongzhen finally realized something was wrong, but her legs were already wrapped around his neck, and immediately after, he felt a huge force. That huge force not only made his throat hurt, but also lifted his body. His fat body was actually thrown away by Xiaogang Wu. "Fatty." Dai Mubai's expression changed drastically, and he instinctively wanted to help. But Tang San wouldn't give him that chance. Tang San was the type to take action without much talk. He immediately raised his right hand. Swish, swish, swish. 3 sleeve arrows pierced through the air, heading straight for Dai Mubai's vital points. that was aimed at taking his life.
HMPH.
Zhao Wuji gave a light hum and flashed in front of Dai Mubai. He threw 3 punches in succession, blasting towards the 3 arrows. It looked like he was hitting the arrows with his bare fists, but in reality, his fists were wrapped in spirit power. Clang, clang, clang. The arrows collided with his fists, emitting sounds of metal clashing. The arrows were all deflected away. Bang! Almost at the same time, Ma Hongzhen made intimate contact with the ground. Damn it! Ma Hongzhen couldn't help but curse under his breath, and with a carp leap, he flipped up. But just as he stood steady, a small, delicate foot rapidly enlarged in his eyes, about to kick him in the face. Enough! Flender flashed to the front and grabbed Xiao Wu's calf. Xiao Wu still wanted to counterattack. Flender pushed her and Xiao Wu, losing her balance, took several steps back before steadying herself. Xiao Wu looked at Flender with reluctance. Then her eyes fell on Ma Hongzhen.
Trash.
Xiao Wu spat out these 2 words indifferently, making Ma Hongzhen instantly flush red with rage. You're looking for death. Chapter 37, Birds of a Feather Indeed. All right, haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? Flender glared at Ma Hongzhen, leaving the latter feeling rather bewildered. Was this really his teacher? Not only Ma Hongzhen, but Dai Mubai and the others also looked at Flender, their faces full of confusion. This didn't seem like his personality at all. Flender didn't explain, but instead looked at Xiao Wu and Tang San. You must be Tang San and Xiao Wu, right? In such a remote corner, to be able to display such combat power. Flender could only think of the 2 geniuses mentioned in Yu Xiaogang's letter. This was also the reason for his sudden change in attitude. He didn't want to cause any resentment between them and himself over such a trivial matter. When Dai Mubai and the others heard this, they suddenly realized that these were the 2 geniuses with innate full spirit power that Dean Flender had spoken of. Tang San and Xiao Wu immediately became alert and took a few steps back without leaving a trace. Who are you? Tang San stared at him with burning eyes, dangerous glimmers flickering in his pupils. Flender smiled slightly. My name is Flender. I am a friend of your teacher, and I have come here at his invitation. Tang San was stunned upon hearing this. His teacher's friend. Hearing this, Xiao Wu couldn't help but show a trace of disgust on her face. As expected of Grandmaster's friend. The useless Grandmaster taught an ungrateful disciple. And his friend. He ignored his junior for harassing a girl in the street, and ignored it when a fight broke out, but the moment his own junior suffered a loss, he immediately jumped out to bully the weak. It was simply shameless to the extreme. If they had just watched that pervert get beaten up, Xiao Wu might have thought more highly of them. It could only be said that they were birds of a feather. Ahems, well. Ma Hongzhen had just wanted to say something, but Xiao Wu turned around and left.
Nothing.
Ma Hongzhen stood there awkwardly, wishing he could crawl into a crack in the ground. Xiao Wu. Tang San called out, but Xiao Wu had no intention of stopping at all. He wanted to chase after her, but he couldn't just leave his teacher's friend unattended. For a moment, he was caught in a dilemma. Dai Mubai looked at Xiao Wu's retreating figure with a thoughtful expression. A girl with innate full spirit power is not easy to find. With innate full spirit power, as long as one doesn't slack off, reaching the title Douluo rank is by no means difficult. If he could win her over, then perhaps he could contend for the throne. Dai Mubai's long-dormant ambition suddenly surged up again. He glanced at Tang San. Although the other party also had innate full spirit power, his appearance was truly nothing to compliment. He had absolute confidence in stealing Xiao Wu from Tang San. When it came to dealing with women, he was very skilled. Flender and the others were looking embarrassed. Who would have thought that the 2 people they randomly encountered would be the geniuses from Yu Xiaogang's letter? What a mess this had turned into. Now the first impression was ruined, and it would be difficult to rebuild it later. Let's go, I'll take you to see my teacher. Tang San withdrew his gaze with a helpless face and said gloomily. Although everyone saw that his mood was clearly off, thinking that the matter was caused by them, they didn't dare to ask anything. Just as Tang San was about to lead everyone into the academy, a nightmarish voice suddenly exploded in his ears. Everyone, please wait, don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to Infinite Novel Audio. Tang San couldn't help but shiver, looking as if he were gnashing his teeth. Seeing this, everyone felt suspicious and turned to look. They saw a handsome youth, dressed in black fine clothes, walking towards them. Seeing the person who arrived, Flender and the others were even more confused. The other person looked about the same age as Tang San, so why was Tang San so scared of him? Tang San turned around, glaring at Lin Chen, who was walking towards them with gritted teeth. He didn't speak, just looked at Lin Chen with a gloomy face, as if he wished he could devour Lin Chen alive. Calamity strike on Tang San and passers-by successful, gained 2 levels of spirit power. Responding was not just about speaking, actions counted too. Therefore, the moment everyone turned around, the calamity strike had already been completed. Seeing the system prompt, Lin Chen raised an eyebrow. Good heavens, this time it actually farmed 2 levels of spirit power. This was the first time this had happened. Lin Chen suppressed the joy in his heart and sized up Flender and the others. A middle-aged man with glasses, a short burly man, a noble with yellow hair, a fatty with red hair, plus a guy who wasn't old but had a full beard. Each of them had a very distinct image. If nothing went wrong, this should be Flender and the others from Shrek. Why did they run to New Oding City? After scanning them, Lin Chen's gaze fell on Tang San. Are these people your friends? Tang San noticed that Lin Chen seemed to glance at his forehead. This made him instantly nervous. Is there a problem? Lin Chen deliberately showed a trace of pity, walked to his side, and patted his shoulder. Stay safe. After saying that, he didn't explain and walked straight past Tang San. Tang San was stunned on the spot. Flender and the others were completely bewildered, not quite understanding the situation. Oscar looked at Tang San. What's the situation? It was only because of this question that Tang San suddenly came back to his senses. Lin Chen, wait. Tang San couldn't care about Flender and the others, shouted and chased after him. Flender and the others looked at each other, all of them filled with confusion. Let's go. Flender dropped one word and also chased after them with quick steps. As for the specific situation, they would know once they saw it. Tang San caught up with Lin Chen. Lin Chen, you need to explain clearly what exactly is going on. His face was full of urgency. Although Lin Chen often said that his bad luck was coming, he had never been like this before. This made him have to be suspicious. The crisis he needed to suffer this time was probably far greater than before. A crisis far greater than before, if he wasn't careful, it could be fatal. Could he not be afraid? Could he not be anxious? Lin Chen stopped and glanced at Flender and the others who had chased after them. Have you encountered any trouble recently? After breaking the disasters the last few times, Tang San had been like nothing happened. Lin Chen was already very curious. And now Gangzi had invited Flender over, which made him even more curious. Why would you Xiaogang invite Flender to come? The only possibility Lin Chen could think of was one. That was that they had encountered an enemy they couldn't deal with. Yet that enemy didn't hurt or kill them. Not hurting, not killing, yet able to break the disaster, this was really too strange. Ugh. Tang San was speechless for a moment. How could such a thing be told to outsiders? Did he and his teacher not need to save face anymore? Seeing this, Lin Chen spread his hands, showing a helpless expression. If you are unwilling to say it, then I can't help it. After all, I am not omnipotent. After saying that, he turned and left. This time, Tang San did not call him back, nor did he chase after him. Some things could not be said. Even if he knew that not saying it would mean death, he would never tell anyone. It would be better to die than to say it out loud. After listening to the conversation between the two, Flender and the others were completely baffled, not understanding anything at all. "No, what's going on?" Zhao Wuji's curiosity was piqued, but he couldn't get an answer and he was extremely anxious. Chapter 38, Flender's Mysterious Confidence. He can see through others' fortunes. If he says you're unlucky, you're doomed to be unlucky. Tang San's tone was low. The impending bad luck made him feel incomparable fear. He really couldn't understand it. What kind of bad luck could possibly make Lin Chen react with even more gravity than when he had lost his dignity as a man and was forcibly ravished by the round-faced bearded man? Say through fortunes. Flender and the others were all dumbfounded. What kind of spirit was that overpowered? "Let's go." Tang San was in no mood to explain anything to them and walked straight toward the dormitory building. Flender and the others had no choice but to follow. Everyone was soon led by Tang San to Yu Xiaogang's dormitory. "Flender, you've finally come." Seeing his old friend whom he hadn't seen in years, all the suffering and grievances Yu Xiaogang had endured over the past 2 years welled up in his heart, and his eyes instantly turned red. He looked just like a child who had suffered a great grievance. Flender couldn't help but be stunned. In his eyes, Yu Xiaogang had always been a very strong person. What exactly had he gone through to make him reveal such a fragile side? And in front of several juniors, no less. Zhao Wuji and the others were also bewildered, especially Dai Mubai and the other two. On the way here, Flender had boasted endlessly about Yu Xiaogang, calling him the #1 theoretical Grandmaster in the Spirit Master's world, and a hidden expert like a dragon coiled in the abyss. And this is the result. Looking at his image and temperament, he didn't seem to match those titles at all. Tang San, however, expressed that he could understand. He was very clear about everything his teacher had encountered over the past 2 years. That was truly not something an ordinary person could withstand. The fact that his teacher could withstand it without seeking death was already very strong. "Xiaogang, what's this?" Flender was full of confusion. "Who?" Yu Xiaogang took a deep breath, suppressing the emotions in his heart. He looked at Zhao Wuji and the others. Who are these few? Upon hearing this, Flender immediately introduced them to him. "I brought Mubai and the others here mainly because I hope you can guide their cultivation. After all, you are quite authoritative in this aspect." Yu Xiaogang nodded indifferently. He understood his old friend and also knew the purpose of his Shrek Academy. The talent of the three would definitely not be too bad. It just so happened that his theories also needed practice. Using Dai Mubai and the other two as experiments could very well help Little San avoid some unknown risks in advance. "Little San, why don't you take them for a stroll around the academy first?" Yu Xiaogang said, looking at Tang San. "All right." Tang San didn't ask anything more and immediately left with Dai Mubai and the other two. Zhao Wuji did not leave. After Tang San and the others left, Yu Xiaogang invited Flender and the other to sit down. "This time, besides inviting you here to protect Little San and Zyro Wu, there is one more thing I need your help with." Yu Xiaogang went straight to the point. Flender laughed. "We are brothers, why talk about trouble or no trouble? Just say what you need to." Yu Xiaogang nodded, very satisfied with the other's attitude. Little San offended a spirit saint outside. His specific strength and spirit ability are unknown, only that he has the best spirit ring configuration. Flender couldn't help but be stunned. In a remote corner like New Uding City, there is actually a powerhouse like a spirit saint. However, it's not a big problem. He and Zhao Wuji are both spirit saints. 2 against 1, the advantage is with me. Small problem, where is he? Yu Xiaogang, however, shook his head. I don't know where he is right now, but he will definitely come to find Little San again. Where there is 1, there will be 2. Where there are 2, there will be 3. The other party is so covetous of Little San, they definitely won't just disappear like this. Flender nodded and said, "Then let's wait for him to come to us before discussing it." By the way, as Flender was speaking, he suddenly thought of something. What is going on with that Lin Chen? Upon hearing the name, Lin Chen, Xiaogang's body couldn't help but tremble. You met him? He looked at Flender and the other, his expression inexplicably becoming serious. Flender and Zhao Wuji both frowned slightly. Tang San was one thing, but why did Xiaogang seem so wary of that kid? Is that kid really that mysterious? Flender didn't hide anything and immediately told him the sequence of events. Upon hearing this, Xiaogang immediately fell silent. He had already invited Flender, and the other party had even brought Zhao Wuji along. Why does it feel like the bad luck has escalated? Could it be that the round-faced bearded man's strength far exceeds that of a spirit saint of the same level? That shouldn't be. Xiaogang pondered for a moment, but couldn't figure it out. Afterwards, he briefly introduced Lin Chen's situation to the two. Is it really that weird? In addition to his shock, Zhao Wuji also had some obvious disbelief. Xiaogang said, "At least it has never been wrong so far." Flender narrowed his eyes. Possessing such heaven-defying abilities, his spirit quality and innate soul power level shouldn't be low, right? Xiaogang nodded. He and Little San are from the same village. His spirit is called Heavenly Thunder Whip, but I don't know the specifics. I only know that he also has innate full spirit power. What? Hearing about another person with innate full spirit power, Flender and Zhao Wuji blurted out in shock. That is innate full spirit power. How many have there been in the entire history of spirit masters? In this tiny Notting academy, 3 of them have suddenly popped up. How could they not be shocked? When did geniuses with innate full spirit power become so worthless? Xiaogang remained silent. Flender probed, "You have no reason to let such a genius go, right?" He knew his old friend too well. However, the relationship between that Lin Chen and Tang San didn't seem very good. This meant that Xiaogang hadn't been able to take him in. Xiaogang shook his head. "That kid is a proud and arrogant person, with my little bit of strength. He doesn't look up to me at all. You guys can go and try." There was nothing worth hiding about the failure to take on an apprentice. If Lin Chen looked down on him, that was his loss. One day, he would let Lin Chen know what a stupid decision it was to refuse him. So what if he has innate full spirit power? Without my own guidance, he is at best a mediocre titled Douluo. He might not even be able to reach titled Douluo. A genius. A genius who hasn't grown up is not a genius at all. Spirit master cultivation is not that simple. Suppression by major forces, hunting for spirit rings, fallen spirit masters, and so on. These are all the biggest stumbling blocks on the path of a genius spirit master's growth. Without a sufficiently powerful background to protect them, no matter how heaven-defying a genius is, they will only have a dead end when facing these crises. Proud and arrogant. Just a commoner, how arrogant can he be? Don't worry. No matter how arrogant he is, I can make him obedient. Flender smiled confidently. He had seen many proud and arrogant geniuses. In the end, weren't they all convinced by him? Just a commoner, he could handle him with a wave of his hand. If he couldn't handle Lin Chen, he would write his name, Flender, backwards. Chapter 39, Subdue Lin Chen. As expected, talent and hard work are nowhere near as practical as Deep Blue. Lin Chen opened his eyes, the corners of his mouth curling up involuntarily. As a spirit master, it had taken him 2 whole years to make up 7 levels of spirit power. How long had it been since he obtained his first spirit ring? Yet his spirit power level had already reached level 25. In less than half a month, a full 3 levels of spirit power. If the system were any more powerful, he might have to apply for early graduation. Once he breaks through to a spirit Grandmaster, he would have to go to Heaven Dew City. After all, if he wanted to withstand a 10,000-year spirit ring at his 4th ring, the Wangchuan autumn water dew in the ice, and Fire Yin Yang Well was indispensable. Don't look at how Tang San in the original story entered a password and gained access to the ice and Fire Yin Yang Well. That was because he had Tang Hao backing him. Without a background, running directly to Douluo to input a password. That would be no different from seeking death. The probability of being captured and tortured by Douluo would be much higher. Torture was the specialty of a poison master. Therefore, Lin Chen had to go to Heaven Do City in advance to plan for the ice and Fire Yin Yang Well based on the situation. The location of the ice and Fire Yin Yang Well shouldn't be hard to find. After all, Douluo had set up his poison array years ago. It was impossible that no one knew about it. The key lay in how thick the poison zone was. If the poison zone wasn't too thick, he might be able to use teleportation to go straight in. Silent Shadow Instant Kill was not just fast movement, but true teleportation. It belonged to the space-type ultimate techniques. As long as the poison zone was within the range of teleportation, he wouldn't have to worry about being corroded by toxins at all. If the poison zone was too thick, then he would only be able to plot slowly by getting close to Douluo. With a plan in mind, Lin Chen continued to cultivate. Although the rewards were good, they weren't always available, so he still had to work hard himself. Over the next few days, Lin Chen lived a normal, routine life. Cultivating, eating, and calamity strike. The arrival of Flender and the others didn't cause any waves for him. At least not for now. It is worth mentioning that Dai Mubai and the other two joined Notting Academy as students. Furthermore, Dai Mubai paid for Tang San and Xiaogang to shed their status as work-study students, and they moved into a single room on the second floor, becoming Lin Chen's neighbors. Because they came to receive guidance from Xiaogang, they didn't attend classes either. This actually made things convenient for Lin Chen. Every time he went out to eat, Lin Chen could almost always run into them. Unknowingly, the brows of Dai Mubai and the other two were also stained with a touch of deep darkness. And their luck didn't seem to be very good. 6 instances of bad luck had accumulated without erupting, as if they were brewing something big. Tang San was even more unlucky. Currently, a full 9 instances had accumulated, scaring Lin Chen so much that he didn't dare to call out to him anymore, fearing that one careless moment might just call him to his death. What Lin Chen didn't know was that a plot against him was brewing. Room 201. Flender, Xiaogang, and the 3 of them, Dai Mubai included, were gathered here. Flender's expression was serious. I am giving you a task, whether you forcibly pick a fight or do anything else. In short, no matter what method you use, subdue that Lin Chen. The reason geniuses are arrogant is because of the confidence their talent brings them. What Flender wanted to do now was to properly dampen Lin Chen's spirit. He wanted to let Lin Chen understand what it means for there to be heavens beyond heavens, and people beyond people. As long as his arrogance was worn down, it would naturally not be difficult to recruit him. Leave it to me. A confident, evil, and charming smile bloomed on Dai Mubai's face. After observing for these past few days, he discovered that Tang San was a pure bootlicker. Xiaogang had absolutely no romantic feelings for him. On the contrary, that Lin Chen seemed to be highly favored by Xiaogang. Xiaogang would find ways to get close to him every day. Originally, he had thought that this wasn't Shrek Academy after all. Some things needed to be restrained. But now that Dean Flender had spoken, there was nothing to worry about. It was just the right opportunity to let Xiaogang know who the real man was. Flender nodded. He was relatively at ease with Dai Mubai. After all, Dai Mubai was already a spirit Grandmaster. No matter how much of a genius that Lin Chen was, he was at most level 17 or 18 right now. There is one point you need to pay attention to. Fighting is fighting, and messing around is messing around, but you cannot use lethal force, and you cannot make him harbor hatred. Flender warned him sternly. His ultimate goal was to recruit Lin Chen, and if Dai Mubai couldn't control the degree of his actions, one careless mistake would be counterproductive. And if it really reached that point, he would probably have to take action to stifle him. To prevent the other party from retaliating against Shrek after growing up. Such a genius to be stifled like this would be a great pity. Dai Mubai smiled slightly. Dean Flender, please rest assured, I understand what you mean. Although he said this, he had a completely different thought in his mind. He wouldn't give Lin Chen the chance to join Shrek and compete with him for Zyro Wu. Killing him directly might not be a bad solution. If that didn't work, crippling him wasn't out of the question either. Flender didn't think much of it, and left with Zhao Wuji after giving a few more instructions on the details. Ma Hongzhen looked at Dai Mubai. Boss Dai, what's the plan? He looked eager to try, clearly wanting to take the lead. It couldn't be helped, that was innate full spirit power. Setting aside Oscar, who was from the support system, he hadn't truly fought against a genius spirit master with innate full spirit power yet. Zyro Wu didn't count. After all, neither of them had activated their spirit at the time, they had just clashed simply. Dai Mubai smiled. What's the rush? When we eat lunch later, try inviting him formally first. If he doesn't agree, it won't be too late to resort to force. If possible, he still wanted to have a fairs par with Lin Chen. After all, if he wanted to woo Zyro Wu, he had to consider his own image. Of course, if Lin Chen didn't know what was good for him, then he couldn't blame him. Ma Hongzhen felt slightly disappointed upon hearing this. Oscar patted him on the shoulder and said with a wicked smile, "Didn't you see that Boss Dai wants to woo that Zyro Wu? In a moment like this to show off, how could he let you have it?" Ma Hongzhen looked at Dai Mubai, completely confused. He really hadn't noticed. Wasn't Zyro Wu with Tang San? Good grief, is this guy even poaching his own people? Isn't that too beastly? I'm not familiar with that Tang San, and Zyro Wu has no interest in him at all. To put it bluntly, even if it were a rotation, it wouldn't be Tang San's turn. Dai Mubai shook his head. He hadn't been at Shrek for long, and he had no real feelings for Flender and the others, let alone Tang San, whom he had just met. Moreover, coming from an imperial family, he didn't know what feelings were. Ma Hongzhen. Oscar. That was a bit too crude, wasn't it? However, judging from the observations over the past few days, Zyro Wu really didn't seem to have any interest in Tang San. It was just Tang San unilaterally clinging to her. Dai Mubai had the final say. This matter has nothing to do with you all. I will take responsibility for any issues. At worst, I'll just quit Shrek Academy. Chapter 40. I haven't even exerted my strength yet. Why are you already failing? Dai Mubai and the other two timed it right, called Tang San and Zyro Wu, and knocked on Lin Chen's door. Lin Chen, it's time for lunch. Do you want to join us? Dai Mubai asked loudly while knocking on the door. Lin Chen, who was just about to leave, couldn't help but be stunned. Dai Mubai was actually coming to ask him to eat, had the sun risen from the west. There must be something fishy going on. Intuition told Lin Chen that Dai Mubai didn't have good intentions today. Then let's see what kind of trick he's trying to pull. Lin Chen did not choose to evade. Instead, he walked to the door and opened the dormitory door. The Shrek group stood neatly outside the door. Let's go. While speaking, Lin Chen calmly observed the expressions of the few people. The others were fine and showed no major abnormalities. But the playful look on Ma Hongzhen's face was about to overflow. That expression. It was practically telling Lin Chen directly, "We are going to mess with you." Yes. Lin Chen sneered in his heart and walked towards the stairs. Zyro Wu followed along, skipping and jumping. Lin Chen, we found a treasure of a restaurant in the city yesterday. The food there is so delicious. Do you want to go try it this afternoon? Seeing this, Tang San's face instantly darkened, and his fists clenched unconsciously, but he didn't say much and just followed silently. Dai Mubai and the other two exchanged glances, then followed closely behind. Not interested. Lin Chen spat out the three words indifferently, his pace unaffected in the slightest. Hearing this, Zyro Wu couldn't help but pout. She just didn't understand, why was this guy so cold to her? She wasn't bad-looking either. Lin Chen. After going down the dormitory building, Dai Mubai quickened his pace and came to Lin Chen's side. Lin Chen looked sideways. Dai Mubai said straightforwardly, "How about a spirit fight this afternoon?" Hearing this, Lin Chen glanced at Tang San. The latter's eyes lit up, clearly wanting to spar with Lin Chen as well. However, looking at that reaction, it didn't seem like he was secretly inciting Dai Mubai. If it wasn't Tang San, then it could only be Xiaogang or Flender and Zhao Wuji. Lin Chen shook his head. "No, I'm afraid of pain." Dai Mubai. He had thought that Lin Chen would refuse, but he hadn't expected him to refuse with such a reason. Afraid of pain? What a lousy excuse. If you're afraid of pain, why the hell are you cultivating? Lin Chen's Spirit Master Cultivation is not just about spirit power levels. Practical combat experience is also essential. Without enough combat experience, no matter how high your level is, you won't be able to unleash your strength. Building a cart behind closed doors is not advisable. Dai Mubai patiently and earnestly persuaded him. Tang San also hurriedly chimed in at this moment. That's right, if your combat experience is insufficient, you might not even be able to beat someone with a lower level than you, and you will be ridiculed by the entire Spirit Master's world. Ma Hongjun also followed up with persuasion. Don't worry, we are all classmates. We will be careful and ensure we won't hurt you. It's not right for you to stay holed up in the dormitory all day. Oscar nodded repeatedly, yeah. Zyro Wu frowned slightly, her eyes scanning their faces. Why did she feel like something was not quite right? However, their arguments didn't have any major problems. Practical combat experience is indeed very important. Lin Chen's gaze swept over the crowd, looking at their ugly faces. His gaze finally landed on Dai Mubai. Are you good at fighting? Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to Infinite Novel Audio. Dai Mubai glanced at Zyro Wu, a confident smile appearing on his face. To tell you the truth, I come from the Douluo royal family, and my spirit is the white tiger. Although I dare not say I am invincible at the same level, there are few people at the same level who can be my opponent. Zyro Wu and Tang San were both stunned upon hearing this. They already knew about Dai Mubai's spirit, but they didn't know his background. He actually came from the Douluo royal family. A member of the Douluo royal family, why would he run to such a remote corner like Nuding City? Lin Chen pretended to be surprised. White tiger spirit. I read in books that spirit masters with tiger-type spirits are all quite strong in power. Your power should be very strong, right? Dai Mubai, contrary to his usual behavior, said modestly, "It's just so-so." Lin Chen asked, "Can I feel it?" Dai Mubai said generously, "Of course, how do you want to feel it?" Lin Chen stopped and reached out his right hand. Without needing him to explain, Dai Mubai instantly understood his intention. He immediately reached out his right hand to shake hands with him. Dai Mubai said, "I'll count 1, 2, 3, and then we both exert force." Lin Chen nodded and said, "Okay." Tang San and the others, seeing this, all stared at the two of them without blinking. 1, 2, 3, start. Lin Chen didn't play any games of pulling. The moment start was called, he exerted force violently. At that instant, Dai Mubai's face changed drastically. He only felt that his right hand was as if it had been clamped by an iron pair of pliers, and a terrifying force instantly began to crazily squeeze his palm. Crack, crack, crack. Crisp bone-cracking sounds rang out, causing Tang San and the others to look at Lin Chen's face in unison. However, there was no sign of any change in the other party's expression. It hurts, 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 let go, damn it, let go. Dai Mubai's face was ferocious, trying to shake off the right hand that Lin Chen was firmly clamping onto. Only then did Tang San and the others react. So the bone-cracking sound wasn't Lin Chen's, but Dai Mubai's. Lin Chen let go, looking completely innocent. No, I haven't even exerted my strength yet. Why are you already failing? Dai Mubai's right hand was trembling uncontrollably, and a heart-piercing pain swept through his entire body. He knew that his finger bones, and even his palm bones, were cracked. Lin Chen's words were even more soul-crushing. Having suffered a secret loss, he, who was already unhappy, instantly became a bit flushed with anger. Damn it! While cursing angrily, Dai Mubai suddenly delivered a straight kick, aiming directly at Lin Chen's chest. Lin Chen's eyes froze. He dodged sideways and simultaneously raised his elbow to strike down. His elbow joint hit Dai Mubai's knee perfectly. Crack! The sound of bone cracking rang out again. But before Dai Mubai could scream, Lin Chen's side kick had already arrived. This kick was fast, accurate, and ruthless. Before he could make any reaction, Dai Mubai felt a massive force slam into his chest. Bang! Dai Mubai's body flew into the air, arching into a U-shape in midair. Bang, bang, bang! Dai Mubai flew out for more than 10 meters before landing in a sorry state. He rolled several times on the ground before dissipating the remaining force. Boss Dai! Ma Hongjun and Oscar's expressions changed drastically, and they hurriedly ran towards Dai Mubai. Cough, cough. While being helped up by Ma Hongjun, Dai Mubai coughed lightly, and a trace of blood spilled from the corner of his mouth. Oscar was furious. Are you fucking sick? It was just a spar. Was it necessary to use such a heavy hand? Tang San and Xiaogang Wu looked at Lin Chen with shock. They really didn't expect that Lin Chen's strength was actually this powerful. His power was strong, and his speed was also surprisingly fast. Just at that moment, if it were them, they wouldn't have been able to react either. The shock in Tang San's heart was the most intense. Previously, when Lin Chen went to report to Xiaogang Wu, he had always thought that Lin Chen was afraid of him. Now it seems that it doesn't appear to be the case. With such strength, how could he be afraid of a peer? He had no idea that he was hiding Tang's sect's secret techniques. Chapter 41, The Reaction of Flender and the Others. Lin Chen looked at Oscar coldly. If your eyes are useless, you might as well donate them. Didn't you see that he was the one who got angry from embarrassment and launched a sneak attack first? Ma Hongjun retorted angrily, isn't that because you struck heavily first? Lin Chen spread his hands, his face full of innocence. He said his strength was very great, so of course I had to give it my all. Who knew he wouldn't be able to handle it when I just used a little bit of force? Ma Hongjun wanted to say more, but was stopped by Dai Mubai. Dai Mubai stood up and glared at Lin Chen. How dare you set a trap for me? I think you don't know how to write the word death. Having lost so much face, if he didn't redeem himself, where would he, Dai Mubai, have any dignity left? Without giving Lin Chen a chance to respond, Dai Mubai let out a low shout. White tiger possess. A white halo spread from the center of his forehead. His muscles began to bulge rapidly, and his hair turned into black and white tiger fur. Tiger fur also quickly grew on his exposed skin. A black king character quietly emerged on his forehead. His hands transformed into tiger paws, and 10 sharp claws popped out from his fingertips. As his spirit merged, 2 yellow spirit rings rose from beneath his feet. Without announcing his information, the moment he completed the spirit fusion, Dai Mubai pushed off the ground, his figure suddenly rushing toward Lin Chen. He balled his right hand into a fist and slammed it toward Lin Chen's face. Go to hell. Dai Mubai's punch landed squarely on Lin Chen's face, yet there was no sensation of impact at all. It was as if he had punched the air. Looking closely, Lin Chen was no longer in front of him. It was clearly just an afterimage. Too slow. Lin Chen's voice sounded from behind Dai Mubai, causing his expression to change drastically. But before he could react, a massive force slammed into his right temple. Bang! Dai Mubai's body flipped sideways 90 degrees, his face slamming into the ground. Youth is great, you fall asleep the moment you hit the pillow. Lin Chen muttered to himself, looking at the motionless Dai Mubai lying on the ground. Xiaogang Wu and the others watching the battle stared at Lin Chen. dumbfounded, because they hadn't seen how Lin Chen had gotten behind Daimyo at all. Even Tang San only saw a barely perceptible afterimage. Tang San couldn't help but swallow hard. Lin Chen actually possessed a movement technique, even more outstanding than his ghost shadow perplexing track. That's right, a movement technique. To deal with a small fry like Daimyo, he didn't need to use silent shadow instant kill. The system's basic movement technique was in no way inferior to the Tang sect's ghost shadow perplexing track. It was even a cut above. Lin Chen turned to look at the two, Ma Hongjun and the other, scaring them into instinctively taking a step back. Daimyo, a spirit grandmaster, couldn't even last a single round against him. If they went up, they would definitely be even worse off. The most fatal part was that he hadn't even used his spirit from start to finish. Lin Chen smiled contemptuously. With just this level of skill, you want to help me hone my practical combat experience. Ma Hongjun and the other lowered their heads, not daring to meet his gaze. Lin Chen sneered and walked straight toward the cafeteria. Lin Chen, wait for me. Having witnessed Lin Chen's strength, Xiao Wu became even more interested. Without thinking, she chased after him. Tang San opened his mouth, but in the end, he didn't say a word. He looked coldly at the Daimyo lying on the ground. This damn bastard, why did he have to go and spar with Lin Chen? Xiao Wu already liked Lin Chen a little. Now that she's witnessed his strength, won't she fall for him even deeper? Daimyo, you really deserve to die. HMPH. Tang San snorted coldly and quickly chased after Xiao Wu. He had no intention of caring about Daimyo. This. Ma Hongjun and Oscar looked at each other, both seeing helplessness in the other's eyes. Who could have imagined that Lin Chen was actually this strong? Trying to show off but getting owned instead, that must be what they call Daimyo right now, right? Sigh. Oscar couldn't help but sigh, then released his spirit. The moment the yellow spirit ring rose from beneath his feet, it shone brightly. I have a big recovery sausage. He circulated his spirit power, chanted the incantation, and condensed a sausage. Big recovery sausage was his first spirit ability, which had the effect of recovering injuries, stamina, and spirit power. It was perfect for Daimyo's current needs. Oscar went to Daimyo's side and forcibly fed the sausage to him. A moment later, Daimyo woke up leisurely and jumped up like a reflex. He looked around vigilantly. Ma Hongjun said irritably, "Don't look anymore, he left long ago." Upon hearing this, Daimyo finally relaxed. Oscar looked at Daimyo and asked, "What now?" Daimyo instantly clenched his fists, looking gritted teeth angry. I was careless. If I had been prepared, I definitely wouldn't have lost to him. Ma Hongjun. Oscar. The glaring gap was right there. What the hell was preparation going to do? However, neither of them wanted to expose him. Ma Hongjun probed, "Then how about we find him and fight again?" Ahem. Upon hearing this, Daimyo immediately coughed awkwardly. Let's go find the dean and explain the situation first, to see if he has any other arrangements. After saying that, he walked toward the dormitory building with a stiff face. Oscar couldn't hold back and laughed out loud, causing Ma Hongjun to laugh as well. Daimyo turned his head suddenly, staring at them with threatening eyes. Ahem, well, I thought of something happy. Oscar covered awkwardly. Ma Hongjun, me too. HMPH. Daimyo snorted coldly, turned his head, and continued walking toward the dormitory building. Ma Hongjun and the other quickly followed. The three of them soon found Flender and the other in Yu Xiaogang's dormitory, and explained what had happened. He's that strong? Flender asked, looking at Yu Xiaogang in disbelief. If he could defeat a spirit grandmaster without using his spirit, what would happen if he did? Zhao Wuji was also full of shock. Even he hadn't been that outrageous back in the day. Was that kid really such a freak? Yu Xiaogang was equally shocked. Lin Chen being able to defeat a spirit grandmaster level Daimyo in one move without using his spirit meant that he could also defeat him in one move. At this moment, he felt inexplicably fortunate. It was a good thing he hadn't gotten angry from embarrassment when his attempt to take him as a disciple failed back then. Otherwise, he would definitely have been beaten up. He was at a great age, he couldn't bear such humiliation. While feeling fortunate, Xiaogang shook his head. He is only registered at the academy and has never taken the academy's practical combat classes. He didn't rely on academy teachers for his spirit rings either, so no one knows his strength. Now it seems he has probably broken through to the spirit Grandmaster realm, otherwise the power and speed he displayed would be too outrageous. As Xiaogang spoke, his eyes gleamed. An 8-year-old spirit Grandmaster, this was the true genius. Compared to him, Tang San was completely blown out of the water. He had to find a way to take him in, only such a genius was worthy of him. Upon hearing this, Flender fell silent. Dai Mubai had been defeated in one move, and Ma Hongjun was even less reliable. It seemed he would have to take action himself. Chapter 42, Tang San, your father is here. Tang San, are you sick? There's so much space, why do you have to squeeze next to me? How am I supposed to eat like this? Xiao Wu looked at Tang San, who seemed desperate to be glued to her, and felt a surge of anger. What decent person sits so close while eating? Couldn't he see she could barely stretch out her hand holding the chopsticks? Tang San suddenly remembered what his teacher had said. Girls are often insincere and like to say the opposite of what they mean. When she says no, she often wants it deep down. When pursuing a girl, you must be thick-skinned and not easily retreat because of a verbal rejection. Specifically, you must learn to observe the other person's emotions. In Tang San's eyes, Xiao Wu's scolding was no different from acting coquettish. Therefore, she must want it. Tang San rolled his eyes, looking at her with a smile. Then let me feed you. But Lin Chen, sitting opposite them, couldn't hold it in and almost spat out the food in his mouth. Tang San's face instantly darkened. He shifted his gaze to Lin Chen, his eyes as sharp as blades. He didn't speak, just stared at him. Lin Chen waved his hand. Sorry, I just remembered something happy. He had really seen something today. Xiao Wu was clearly angry, and she was just one step away from smashing her tray onto his face, yet he actually came out with such a thunderous statement. Who could hold that in? Hearing Tang San's words, Xiao Wu felt as if ants were crawling all over her. She felt uncomfortable everywhere. She really couldn't understand how someone could be so oblivious to the point of absurdity. Couldn't he see the anger on her face? Xiao Wu stood up abruptly, picked up her tray, and walked toward the next table. Xiao Wu. Tang San also laughed and chased after her with his tray. Get lost. Xiao Wu stopped and roared at Tang San, her voice loud enough to cause echoes. Many students saw this and began to eat vigorously. This show was much better for their appetites than the food in the cafeteria. Tang San froze on the spot. Only at this moment did he realize that Xiao Wu seemed a bit angry. Lin Chen shook his head and focused on his meal. Helpless, Tang San silently walked over to an empty table and sat down. After eating, Lin Chen was about to leave. He saw a doorman come up from the stairs. The doorman scanned the area and finally landed his gaze on Tang San. Tang San, your father is here. Father? When Tang San heard his father had arrived, a flash of light burst into his eyes. He dropped his tray and ran. Lin Chen was stunned at this news. Why would Tang Hao come to find Tang San? Wasn't he afraid of bringing him bad luck? Perhaps there is some matter. Lin Chen shook his head, stood up, and left the cafeteria. Lin Chen, wait for me. Xiao Wu also hurriedly got up and caught up with Lin Chen. Lin Chen was speechless. No, seriously, why do you stick to me all day long for no reason? Xiao Wu put her hands on her hips and said, can't I like you? Lin Chen turned his head to look at her. You better be joking. Hearing this, Xiao Wu was immediately displeased. Do you have to be so disgusted? I have the looks and my figure isn't bad either. Am I not good enough for you? Lin Chen's eyes subconsciously drifted downwards, landing on her slightly raised chest. A tiny lotus bud just emerging, what figure to speak of? Ugly, rejected. Lin Chen spat out the two words with a look of disgust, then quickened his pace and left. You jerk. Xiao Wu was truly strung by his look of disgust, stomping her feet in anger, wishing she could rush up and beat Lin Chen up. On the other side, Tang San sprinted all the way to the school gate, but the moment he saw his father, he was struck by lightning and froze on the spot. His fists clenched involuntarily, and deep murderous intent rose in his eyes. He gritted his teeth so hard they clicked. There was no father at the school gate, only that damned round-faced bearded man. And this time he had brought someone else with him. It was an incredibly ugly, tall, thin man, the kind that made people feel nauseated just looking at him. His eyes were full of aggression, roaming over Tang San without restraint. Little baby, haven't seen you in a few days, did you miss Daddy? The round-faced bearded man greeted him with a smile, opening his arms. Tang San subconsciously retreated, but after seeing the threatening look in the other man's eyes, he endured the disgust and voluntarily threw himself into the other's embrace. He was afraid the other party would directly expose their relationship in front of the doorman. If that happened, how could he hold his head up? Missed you, Tilda. Tang San gritted his teeth and spat out the word, while thinking in his heart how to escape and find Flender and Zhao Wuji. The round-faced bearded man laughed. Then let's go, Daddy will take you to eat something delicious. Tang San was suddenly anxious. Just the round-faced bearded man alone was already suffering enough. Now with another one, how could he handle it? Can I call my teacher? The round-faced bearded man shook his head. That old geezer is boring. The round-faced bearded man gave a look toward the doorman, cutting off Tang San's words directly. Tang San was furious inside. His teacher had clearly invited two helpers, but unexpectedly this dog thing didn't play by the rules at all, not even giving him a chance to call for help. Along with the anger, he felt deeply powerless. He didn't dare to resist, nor even try to run away. Otherwise, if the matter was exposed, he would have no face to see anyone, let alone pursue Xiao Wu. No matter how bitter or tired he was, he could only endure it. Let's go. The round-faced bearded man took Tang San's small hand, giving him no chance to continue making excuses. Tang San had no choice but to follow the two away. These two, father and son, why is their relationship so weird? Watching the three figures gradually fade into the distance, the doorman always felt something was not quite right, but for a moment he couldn't put his finger on it. However, he didn't think much of it. After all, Tang San was a spirit master. If there was real danger, he could at least resist, right? How could he obediently follow the other party away? But honestly, Tang San's father was really quite ugly. Right. Tang San suddenly remembered Dai Mubai and the others, feeling that this might be an opportunity. He looked at the two. Our academy has two more genius spirit masters, and there was already one with innate full spirit power. Do you want me to help you lure them out? Oh. Hearing this, the two revealed expressions of great interest. The tall, thin man asked, "You are that kind-hearted?" Tang San said calmly, "He knows I need money. 1,000 gold coins each. 4 people plus me, this time I want 5,000 gold coins." The round-faced bearded man looked at the tall, thin man, seemingly seeking his opinion. The latter just smiled. "No rush, today let us two brothers serve you well first." Hearing this, Tang San felt desperate. Chapter 43, The Father Scamming Gangzi. In the afternoon, Xiaogang had prepared many stones and several carrying baskets, intending to have Dai Mubai and the others run laps while carrying them, thereby training their physique and endurance. Flender and Zhao Wuji were also accompanying him on the sidelines. However, when Dai Mubai and the others arrived, he did not see Tang San. Where is little San? Yu Xiaogang subconsciously looked at Zyro Wu. She should know Tang San's whereabouts best. That's right, Zyro Wu had also joined Shrek. Not for anything else, but simply because the talent of Dai Mubai and the others was not bad. In the future, they might be able to become an aid for her revenge. Moreover, the spirit saint strength of Flender and Zhao Wuji was there for all to see. They could protect her safety to a certain extent. Zyro Wu did not hide it either, and immediately explained the situation simply.
What?
Upon hearing this, Yu Xiaogang's expression instantly became grave. What kind of person was Tang Hao? Even if he came, he could not possibly be waiting for Tang San at the school gate. That so-called father could absolutely not be Tang Hao. Flender, Zhao Wuji, let's go. Yu Xiaogang did not hesitate too much and immediately ran towards the school gate. The two of them, Flender and Zhao Wuji, instantly realized that the so-called father might be the very enemy Yu Xiaogang had mentioned when they first arrived. The two hurriedly chased after him. What's the situation? Dai Mubai looked at Zyro Wu in confusion. Tang San's father had come, so why did Yu Xiaogang reveal such a grave expression? How would I know? Zyro Wu rolled her eyes at him, and then walked towards the dormitory building on her own. Dai Mubai and the others exchanged glances and followed back to the dormitory building. Yu Xiaogang and the two rushed to the gatehouse. After some questioning, Yu Xiaogang immediately confirmed the other party's identity. It was exactly that damned round-faced bearded man. And that damned guy had actually brought another person with him this time. If he couldn't rescue little San in time, he really couldn't imagine how much suffering little San would have to endure tonight. Go! Yu Xiaogang didn't know where that damned guy would take Tang San, so he could only try his luck at the hotel from before. If that didn't work, he would probably have to search from hotel to hotel. Although Flender and Zhao Wuji were somewhat confused as to why Tang San would obediently follow the enemy, it clearly wasn't the time to ask about such things. Soon, the three of them arrived at that hotel, which was, for Yu Xiaogang, a living nightmare. A hotel? Flender and Zhao Wuji looked at Yu Xiaogang, beside them with dumbfounded expressions. Why would Tang San be brought to a hotel? And looking at how familiar Yu Xiaogang was with it, this didn't seem to be the first time.
Sigh.
Yu Xiaogang couldn't help but sigh, knowing full well that things had reached this point and could no longer be hidden. Once they found Tang San, they would understand everything. He simply stopped hiding it and informed the two of the situation regarding the round-faced bearded man. Of course, he certainly wouldn't mention himself.
Hiss.
After listening to Yu Xiaogang's explanation, the two immediately couldn't help but gasp. Tang San was actually being. He was only 8 years old. Wasn't this a bit too cruel? However, it had to be said. That kid was quite tough. Having suffered such torture, he usually acted like nothing had happened. He was a real man. Being able to endure what ordinary people could not, he would surely achieve great things in the future. Let's go. Yu Xiaogang said no more, took a deep breath, and stepped into the hotel. He came to the front desk. Were there two middle-aged men who brought a little boy here to open a room just a moment ago? Yu Xiaogang stared fixedly at the front desk. To ensure the front desk wouldn't lie, Zhao Wuji immediately released his spirit. The phantom of the vigorous Vajra Bear appeared behind him, and 7 spirit rings, 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 3 black, rose from beneath his feet. The receptionist was terrified, staggering and nearly falling over. Snow! Yu Xiaogang was furious, his eyes fixed on the receptionist like a venomous snake. He remembered the round-faced bearded man, mentioning that night that Tang San had been at this hotel both times. How could there be no one? Zhao Wuji said coldly, if you don't want to die, you'd better tell the truth. The receptionist was almost crying, there really isn't. Flender said, why waste words with her, let's just search. Go. Yu Xiaogang didn't dawdle and immediately took the two upstairs. They violently broke open every door, not caring at all if there were guests inside, nor caring about the hotel's property damage. And even if those guests were furious, upon seeing the number of Zhao Wuji's spirit rings, they could only grit their teeth and swallow it. The hotel front desk was also helpless. Until they broke open the last door, the three still hadn't found Tang San. Flender looked at Xiaogang. What now? Xiaogang pondered for a moment. We can only search from house to house. Flender frowned slightly. Although Niuding City wasn't large, it wasn't small either. There were at least dozens of hotels and inns. When would they finish searching? Let's go. Flender shook his head. They couldn't just let it go like this, right? The three of you. A pot-bellied middle-aged man blocked the path of the three. Zhao Wuji said coldly, "Get lost if you don't want to die." The middle-aged man was not afraid at all, and a cold glint flickered in the depths of his eyes. The Rose Hotel is an industry of the 7 great families. You smash the place up and want to walk away just like that. Isn't that looking down on the 7 great families a bit too much? The pupils of Flender and Zhao Wuji couldn't help but shrink. The strength of the 7 great families was second only to Spirit Hall and the upper 3 sects. The lower 4 sects were not even worth mentioning in front of them. Moreover, the 7 great families were bound together by the interests of the Great Spirit Arena, which was incomparable to the so-called mutual support of the upper 3 sects. Even for the upper 3 sects, facing the 7 great families alone wouldn't yield much benefit. Let alone a few small fries like them. Flender and Zhao Wuji couldn't help but look at Xiaogang. They couldn't come up with the money to compensate. Xiaogang was also feeling overwhelmed at this moment. He certainly knew that the Rose Hotel was an industry of the 7 great families, but he had been too anxious just now and had forgotten about this point for a moment. How to handle this now? He definitely couldn't come up with the money, and Little San was still waiting for him to save him. He couldn't afford to waste too much time here. My name is Xiaogang, the son of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect Master Yu Yuanzhen. If there are any issues, tell the 7 great families to go find my father. The middle-aged man said indifferently, empty words are not enough, leave a written note or a token. He had seen people scam their fathers, but he had never seen anyone scam their father like this. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to Infinite Novel Audio. It was originally a small matter, but elevating it to a conflict between factions made it different. With him doing this, if they didn't tear a piece of flesh off the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect, then they wouldn't be the 7 great families. Xiaogang didn't think too much, and immediately left a written note for the other party. And he pressed his thumbprint on it. In his opinion, they just smashed a few doors, right? How big of a deal was it? That bit of compensation wasn't even a drop in the bucket for the family. After leaving the Rose Hotel, Xiaogang and the two began to check from hotel to hotel. However, this time they had learned their lesson and didn't dare to be as arrogant as before, so the speed of their search naturally slowed down as a result. Before they knew it, the sky had darkened. Chapter 44, Ma Hongzhen's Evil Fire Erupts. Evening. Ma Hongzhen was sitting cross-legged on the bed cultivating, when he inexplicably felt a warmth in his lower abdomen. What is going on? It clearly isn't time yet, so why is the fire starting to rise? Ma Hongzhen opened his eyes, his face full of confusion. His spirit was called the Evil Fire Phoenix, which came with an evil fire attribute. However, he felt that calling it Lust Fire would be more appropriate. Because as of now, his teacher had only helped him find one way to suppress the evil fire. That was to find women to vent the fire. The eruption of the evil fire followed a 30-day cycle. As long as he found a woman to cool the fire beforehand, there was basically no risk of an evil fire eruption. But now, it hadn't even been half a month since he last found a woman. This was clearly not normal. What Ma Hongzhen did not know was that the black aura between his eyebrows was spreading throughout his entire body. That was a sign that his bad luck was about to erupt. The bad luck he had accumulated over the past few days was about to reach its moment of eruption. I wonder if the teacher is back yet. Ma Hongjun stood up, intending to go see if Flender had returned. They had only been in Newerding City for a few days. Flender hadn't even had time to take him to scout the city yet. He couldn't even find a place to vent his fire now. And there was one more crucial point: he had no money. So he had no choice but to go find Flender. The moment Ma Hongjun stood up, the black aura that had already spread throughout his entire body suddenly erupted. The evil fire within his body was also completely detonated. Ma Hongjun's body stiffened, and his waist bent instinctively. His skin was instantly flushed with a layer of crimson, as if his blood was about to break free from the constraints of his veins and rush out from under his skin. The veins on his neck suddenly bulged, and his eyes instantly turned blood red. His little Hongjun also raised its head, holding its head high. Those consumed by lust often lack strong willpower. The eruption of the evil fire came too fiercely, almost instantly drowning his reason. "I'm starving." Ma Hongjun's beast-like roar sounded exceptionally piercing in the quiet night. Dai Mubai and Oscar next door, and even Xiao Wu and Lin Chen in the room further down, were all awakened by this roar.
It's Fatty.
Dai Mubai didn't even bother putting on his shoes and rushed out of the dormitory. Oscar followed closely behind, rushing out from the room next door. "What's going on?" Oscar looked at Dai Mubai with a confused expression, unable to understand what kind of crazy stunt Ma Hongjun was pulling in the middle of the night. "I don't know." While speaking, Dai Mubai had already rushed outside Ma Hongjun's dormitory. "Bang bang bangs Fatty, what happened?" Dai Mubai asked loudly into the dormitory while pounding on the door. Not far away, Lin Chen and Xiao Wu also opened their dormitory door and walked out together. "I'm starving." Ma Hongjun's roar sounded again, even louder than before. But that loud voice sounded somewhat painful. The person making the sound seemed to be suffering from some sort of torture. "Damn it." Dai Mubai couldn't help but curse under his breath and kicked the dormitory door. Bang! The dormitory door opened in response, and they saw Ma Hongjun curled up on the floor like a shrimp.
Fatty.
Dai Mubai and Oscar rushed into the room, while Lin Chen and Xiao Wu looked on from outside the door. The moment he saw Ma Hongjun, Lin Chen understood everything. His bad luck had erupted along with the evil fire. He had accumulated quite a bit of bad luck, so even if he didn't die, he would likely suffer greatly. It might even implicate others. Thinking of this, Lin Chen instinctively turned around and walked toward his own room. He certainly didn't want to be implicated by the disaster he had brought down. Lin Chen, aren't you going to watch?" Seeing Lin Chen turn and leave, Xiao Wu couldn't help but ask curiously. Hearing a woman's voice, Ma Hongjun suddenly looked up at Xiao Wu. "Woman, I want a woman. I want a woman." The moment he saw Xiao Wu, Ma Hongjun scrambled up from the floor, shoved Dai Mubai and Oscar aside, and lunged straight towards Xiao Wu outside the door.
Fatty.
Dai Mubai was shocked and grabbed his shoulder. Having lost his reason, Ma Hongjun threw a backhand punch toward his face. Bang! Dai Mubai hadn't expected him to attack, and caught off guard, he took a solid punch to the face, causing his body to stagger. Oscar wanted to help, but was kicked onto the bed by Ma Hongjun. Bang! The wooden bed frame shattered upon impact, and Oscar lay in the wreckage, groaning. Ma Hongjun continued to lunge towards Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu had just turned her head when she saw Ma Hongjun rushing toward her like a madman. He was still shouting about wanting a woman. Her expression instantly darkened, and she kicked out without hesitation. Who would have thought that Ma Hongjun would not only not dodge, but instead grab her calf, holding on tightly even after taking a solid kick. "Damn it!" Xiao Wu couldn't help but curse under her breath, using the force to leap up. Her other foot kicked straight at his temple. Bang! Ma Hongjun was kicked to the ground by Xiao Wu, but he acted as if nothing had happened. He scrambled up and continued to lunge towards Xiao Wu. Dai Mubai also rushed out at this moment, lunging toward Ma Hongjun. As the only spirit Grandmaster present, and with his spirit being the top-tier beast spirit, the white tiger, his strength was unquestionable. Ma Hongzhen was tackled to the ground by him and pinned down firmly. Slap! Dai Mubai showed no mercy, delivering a fierce slap to his face. Fatty, wake up! Oscar also limped out of the room at this time. Zyro Wu asked, what is going on? Oscar said helplessly, Fatty's spirit has a flaw. He must regularly find women to vent his fire, otherwise he will become like this. Hearing this, Zyro Wu felt a chill run down her spine. If she didn't have some strength, and if others weren't here, her fate would have been disgusting. Zyro Wu didn't dare to stay there any longer, and turned to walk toward her room. I'm starving. Seeing Zyro Wu about to leave, Ma Hongzhen let out a low roar, and as he released his spirit, his only spirit ring began to shine. Boom! The scorching evil fire erupted from his mouth, striking Dai Mubai, who was close at hand. The evil fire in its erupting state had its power greatly enhanced, infinitely approaching the concept of the ultimate, which did not yet exist in this era. Damn it! Dai Mubai was shocked, but it was already too late to retreat. The evil fire instantly ignited his clothes and hair. Almost at the same time, the black aura between his eyebrows erupted at this moment. Boom! The eruption of bad luck was like adding dry firewood to the evil fire, causing the evil fire to suddenly flare up and directly engulf Dai Mubai. White tiger possess. Dai Mubai could no longer care about Ma Hongzhen and immediately wanted to release his spirit to dispel the evil fire. Meanwhile, Ma Hongzhen chased after Zyro Wu. Zyro Wu, be careful. Oscar wanted to help, but unfortunately, he was only a support type. He could only call out to warn Zyro Wu. In fact, she didn't need his warning at all. Zyro Wu felt the heat wave coming from behind the moment it arrived, and immediately reacted. She used the railing for leverage and performed a backflip, landing behind Ma Hongzhen. Following that, she kicked out, striking Ma Hongzhen directly in the center of his chest. Chapter 45, Ma Hongzhen disconnects. The moment Ma Hongzhen missed his pounce, he immediately turned and continued to lunge at Zyro Wu. However, he was met by Zyro Wu's jade foot. Bang! Zyro Wu kicked him in the chest, instantly sending him flying several meters away. What are you doing? As an angry shout rang out, a teacher walked down from downstairs. Seeing that several people were actually fighting in the dormitory corridor, the teacher was instantly furious and marched over aggressively. It was also at this moment that the evil fire on Dai Mubai finally extinguished. However, not only had his clothes been burnt to ashes by the evil fire, but his skin had also suffered extensive burns, making him look like a flayed, bloody corpse. Holy crap! The teacher jumped back instinctively, clearly startled by Dai Mubai's appearance. Dead fatty, you're courting death. Dai Mubai raised his hand and lowered his head, his extreme rage and killing intent erupting suddenly. As he turned, his second spirit ring instantly flared up. Second spirit ability, White Tiger Light Wave. Dazzling white light spewed from his mouth, striking Ma Hongzhen, who had just gotten up. Perhaps he had lost his reason and didn't know to dodge, or perhaps he simply didn't have time to dodge. Ma Hongzhen was hit squarely by the light wave. The light wave pierced through Ma Hongzhen's chest, causing his body to suddenly stiffen. Ma Hongzhen lowered his head to check, looking somewhat stiff. With just one glance, his body fell straight to the ground. Bang! Ma Hongzhen's fat body slammed heavily onto the floor. In an instant, all signs of life were gone. Oscar and Zyro Wu widened their eyes abruptly, turning their heads to look at Dai Mubai in disbelief. He actually... Dai Mubai spat out a mouthful of blood, and his body also fell backward. It was clear that after the adrenaline faded, he could no longer hold on. Bang! Dai Mubai fell heavily to the ground, sinking into a coma. This... The teacher looked at Ma Hongzhen, then at Dai Mubai. His face was filled with disbelief. But how did a scuffle between students end up like this? Bastards, what on earth are you doing? The teacher, having regained his senses, was furious and glared at Xiao Wu and Oscar with a ferocious expression. Xiao Wu retorted unhappily, "How would I know? That fatty lunged at me the moment he saw me, like he'd gone crazy, and then it ended up like this." The look in Oscar's eyes as he stared at Ma Hongzhen's corpse seemed somewhat vacant. His body was trembling uncontrollably. Ma Hongzhen died, Dai Mubai was heavily injured. How did it come to this? Seeing that Oscar looked like he had lost his soul, the teacher could only temporarily suppress the anger in his heart. He walked over to Ma Hongzhen's corpse, crouched down, and inspected it. Dead as a doornail. Then he came to Dai Mubai and crouched down to check him as well. Extensive skin burns weren't a major issue. A decent healing soul master could restore him, but the problem was that his internal injuries were very serious. Even if he didn't die, he would be crippled. Unless a top-tier healing soul master could be found, and without delay. The longer it was dragged out, the harder it would be to recover. In other words, having his foundation damaged was already the best-case scenario. The teacher stood up and looked at Oscar. "Where are your teachers?" The academy certainly had no way to deal with Dai Mubai's injuries. They could only rely on themselves. Flender and Zhao Wuji were, at the very least, spirit saints. They should be able to find a decent healing soul master. If they couldn't do anything, then Dai Mubai would just have to be a cripple. As for Dai Mubai killing someone, the Shrek group was only registered at Notting Academy. And he killed one of their own people. Since it was an internal matter, let them handle it themselves. Oscar shook his head blankly. "I don't know." He knew Flender and the others had gone to find Tang San, but he didn't know where they were. The teacher wanted to say something but stopped. "I'll take him to the school doctor. You need to find your teachers as soon as possible, otherwise, even if he doesn't die, he will become a cripple." Speaking of this, the teacher glanced at Ma Hongzhen. "As for him, move him to the dormitory first, and wait for your teachers to return and decide." After saying that, the teacher picked up Dai Mubai and left. Watching the teacher leave with Dai Mubai, Oscar's mind went blank. How was he supposed to know where to find Dean Flender and the others? Xiao Wu. Oscar looked at Xiao Wu for help, but the latter gave him an eye roll. "Why are you looking at me? How would I know where they are?" Oscar felt a sudden sense of despair. An unprecedented feeling of powerlessness deeply enveloped him. Xiao Wu couldn't help but shake her head. "You better go find them quickly. Leave Ma Hongzhen here to me." After saying that, she walked towards Ma Hongzhen. Oscar had no choice but to turn and go downstairs, intending to try his luck in the city. Click! The moment Oscar left, Lin Chen opened his door. At this moment, Xiao Wu was dragging Ma Hongzhen by his leg into his dormitory. Ugh! Seeing Lin Chen, Xiao Wu's expression was slightly awkward. She suddenly felt that treating a corpse like this seemed a bit inappropriate. But Lin Chen remained silent as he looked at Ma Hongzhen. Ma Hongzhen had actually died just like that. Dai Mubai was a bit too ruthless, wasn't he? He had been hiding behind the door eavesdropping. Although he couldn't see the scene, he had analyzed the general situation through the sounds. How many strands of bad luck did Ma Hongzhen have again? 6 or 7? Lin Chen couldn't quite remember. With the same amount, Dai Mubai hadn't died, and neither had Oscar. But Ma Hongzhen had died. And Lin Chen remembered that Xiao Wu seemed to have 1 or 2 more than them. It seemed that the amount of bad luck didn't represent everything. It ultimately depended on the person. Perhaps there really was such a thing as fortune. Ma Hongzhen's fortune was slightly weaker, so he couldn't withstand the same amount of bad luck. On the other side, the 3 of them, Flender and the others, were completely unaware that a major event had occurred at the academy. They were still diligently searching for Tang San. From the afternoon until now, they had searched almost every hotel and inn in the city. "This is the last one." Flender glanced at the hotel in front of him, then looked sideways at Xiaogang. Upon hearing this, Xiaogang clenched his fists unconsciously. If he couldn't find Little San here, he really wouldn't know what to do. Where on earth did that damn round-faced bearded man take Little San? Now Xiaogang was no longer asking to kill the round-faced bearded man. He only prayed for Tang San to return safely. If Tang San disappeared from now on, how would he explain it to Tang Hao? Tang Hao had entrusted his son to him, yet he had lost his son. And he didn't even know if he was alive or dead. Given Tang Hao's volatile personality, he would probably just hammer him to death, right? After all, Tang Hao even dared to kill Qian Zunji. What the hell was he, Xiaogang? Let's go in. Xiaogang took a deep breath and led the two into the hotel. The three of them arrived at the front desk. Xiaogang took out the token Tang Hao had given him and threw it on the counter. Spirit Hall Elder, did a round-faced bearded man and an incredibly ugly middle-aged man bring a little boy here to check in this afternoon? Xiaogang stared intensely at the receptionist. Chapter 46, Zhao Wuji disconnects. Seeing that the other party was an elder of the Spirit Hall, how could the hotel receptionist dare to be the slightest bit negligent? She stood up immediately. She said cautiously, "Yes, they are in room 202. Upon hearing this, Xiaogang and the others felt a surge of joy. Heaven rewards the diligent, they had finally found them. Let's go. Flender dropped this single word and immediately turned to rush upstairs. Zhao Wuji followed closely behind. Xiaogang put away the elder token, thought for a moment, and followed as well. They arrived outside room 202. Bang! Flender kicked the door open violently and charged into the room. Zhao Wuji was not to be outdone. Xiaogang, who had followed, did not rush in immediately. He was afraid of being caught in the crossfire. Flender and the other man rushed into the room, only to see a truly eye-searing sight. Attacked from front and back, it was difficult upon difficult. Seeing that Flender and the other man had finally arrived, a light called hope finally appeared in Tang San's previously hollow eyes. "You beasts!" Flender shouted sharply, his figure suddenly rushing towards the round-faced bearded man. Zhao Wuji followed closely behind, but his target was the tall thin man. "You're courting death," the round-faced bearded man and the tall thin man said in unison, then cast Tang San aside. However, their actions were completely opposite. While choosing to dodge, the round-faced bearded man directly released his spirit. A pink flower appeared in the palm of his right hand. 7 spirit rings, 2 yellow, 2 purple and 3 black, rose from beneath his feet one by one. But the tall thin man reached out with a fist, choosing to take Zhao Wuji's fist head-on. Bang! Crack! The dull sound of the collision and the sound of cracking bones were exceptionally clear in the silent room. The tall thin man's remaining force did not diminish, and his fist slammed into Zhao Wuji's chest. Zhao Wuji's body flew backward like a kite with a broken string. How is this possible? Flender, who was about to pursue, saw this scene and widened his eyes in shock. Zhao Wuji's spirit was the vigorous Vajra bear. In terms of pure strength, even many spirit Douluos might not be able to surpass him. The other party was actually able to send Zhao Wuji flying with a single punch. With such terrifying strength, just how high was his spirit power level? Bang! Zhao Wuji's body, flying backward, slammed heavily against the wall. Then it bounced off and fell to the ground. Almost at the same time, the 6th spirit ring of the round-faced bearded man lit up. Oh no! Flender, who had been slightly distracted, woke up with a start and subconsciously wanted to retreat. Unfortunately, it was too late. The tall thin man did not pursue Zhao Wuji, but instead punched at him. Flender raised his elbow to block. Bang! The terrifying force slammed into his upper arm and then carried over to his right ribs. That strength was truly terrifying. Flender's body was uncontrollably sent flying into the wall. Bang! He hit the wall, bounced off, and landed, making a dull and violent sound.
Spirit attach.
Zhao Wuji did a kip-up to stand, about to release his spirit. However, a pink halo had already filled the room. Zhao Wuji felt his mind go into a daze, falling into a brief stupor.
Whoosh!
As the tall thin man charged out, a black long spear appeared in his right hand. At the same time, 8 spirit rings, 2 yellow, 2 purple and 4 black, rose from beneath his feet one by one. No one could have imagined it. A dignified spirit Douluo would actually lower himself to become a flower-plucking thief. And not just an ordinary flower-plucking thief. With his strength, why would he need to do something that ruins his own reputation? Plenty of people would be willing to do it voluntarily, okay? The tall thin man would say that you don't know anything. This feeling is exactly what he wanted.
Putting.
The sharp spear tip pierced accurately into the center of Zhao Wuji's eyebrows. It directly broke through his skull. Zhao Wuji's eyes widened sharply, using the pain to break free from the mental control. However, it was of no use. Flender had also been affected by the round-faced bearded man's spirit ability, but had barely broken free during the process of the tall thin man killing Zhao Wuji. Just having regained consciousness, he saw the scene of Zhao Wuji being killed. There was no heart-wrenching scream, there wasn't even time for grief. He rushed toward the room's window without hesitation. The tall thin man pulled out the long spear and turned around abruptly to throw it at Flender.
Whoosh!
Flender felt the danger behind him, but he dared not linger for a moment.
Bang!
He burst through the window, twisting his body to avoid vital areas.
Putting.
The long spear entered from his right back rib and pierced out through his right front rib. Flender's figure plummeted rapidly. Just as he was about to have intimate contact with the ground, a pair of wide wings grew from behind him. Whoosh! Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to Infinite Novel Audio. Flender's figure rose into the air and flew straight toward the distance. The tall thin man chased to the window. Watching Flender, who had vanished in the blink of an eye, he couldn't help but shake his head. A spirit saint with flight capabilities. Neither he nor his brother could catch up. Tang San looked at Zhao Wuji in a daze. The hope he had just developed was extinguished in an instant. He was truly beginning to doubt life. From the time Flender and the other arrived until one died and one fled, it was less than 30 seconds in total. This was just too weak, wasn't it? Big brother. The round-faced bearded man looked at the tall thin man, seemingly seeking his opinion. The tall thin man glanced at Tang San. This place is not suitable for a long stay. Having said that, he picked up the clothes on the floor and put them on. The round-faced bearded man also started moving. Tang San breathed a sigh of relief. Although Zhao Wuji was dead, it could help him escape the sea of suffering sooner. It wasn't a death in vain, after all. The two put on their clothes and, surprisingly, ignored Tang San. They both jumped out the window and left. Phew! Seeing this, Tang San's tense nerves finally completely relaxed. And outside the door, hearing that there was no more movement, Xiaogang carefully poked his head out to look.
Teacher.
Seeing Xiaogang, Tang San's tears instantly gushed out uncontrollably. Little San. Xiaogang rushed into the room, but his figure froze the moment he saw Zhao Wuji's corpse. Zhao Wuji dead. How long had it been, and Zhao Wuji just died like this? This was too outrageous, wasn't it? Where is Flender? Xiaogang looked at Tang San sharply, his tightly clenched fists causing his body to tremble slightly from the excessive force. He really didn't dare to imagine. Zhao Wuji died in a single encounter. How much better could Flender fare? Tang San said in a deep voice. He ran away. Phew! Hearing this, Xiaogang finally breathed a sigh of relief. As long as Flender was still alive, that was fine. He turned his head to look at Zhao Wuji's corpse and apologized silently in his heart. Brother, I'm sorry, it was I who harmed you. After only a second of apology, Xiaogang looked back at Tang San. Let's go, this place is not suitable for a long stay. Xiaogang thought those two had gone to pursue Flender, so he was in a hurry to take Tang San away from here, lest those two guys come back for a surprise attack. Tang San had no clothes, and could only follow Xiaogang wrapped in a bed sheet. As for Zhao Wuji's corpse, never mind dealing with it, the two didn't even take another look at it. Chapter 47, Bad Luck is Still at Work. After escaping for some distance, Flender landed in a narrow alley. His body stumbled, and he only managed to steady himself by supporting his weight against the wall with one hand. Severe blood loss and fleeing, while injured, made him look somewhat weak. His face was deathly pale. He gasped for breath, leaning his back against the wall as he slowly sat down. He clutched his wound tightly. Xiaogang, oh Xiaogang, you have really brought me so much misery this time. It was supposed to be one spirit saint, but it turned out to be two people. And one of them was even a spirit Douluo. Zhao Wuji had been hunted by Spirit Hall and the Strength clan back in the day and survived, yet now he had died in such a godforsaken place. Thinking about it just made him feel stifled. And the culprit behind all of this was merely a letter from Xiaogang. It was just because of that intelligence that was too watered down. If they had known there was a spirit Douluo, even if they couldn't defeat them, they shouldn't have ended up in such a miserable state. Well, this is great. After he returned to Shrek, how was he supposed to explain this to Li Yusong and the others?
Sigh.
Flender couldn't help but sigh, forcing himself to stand up despite his injuries. His injuries were not light. If he couldn't get timely treatment, even though he was a spirit saint, he wouldn't be able to withstand the risk of continued blood loss, so he couldn't rest for too long. Dane, where on earth are you? An anxious, tearful voice suddenly reached him, causing Flender to freeze. Listening to that voice, why did it sound a bit like Oscar?
I'm here.
Flender shouted and walked toward the direction the voice came from. Soon he saw someone running over in a hurry. That person was none other than Oscar, who had run out of Notting Academy. Dean, I've finally found you. Upon seeing Flender, Oscar's emotions completely broke down. Tears streamed down like a bursting flood.
Dean's fatty, he.
Oscar rushed forward, about to pour out his grievances, but suddenly noticed Flender's injuries. Dean, what happened to you? Oscar was horrified and hurriedly rushed forward to support him. Give me a healing sausage first. Flender leaned against him, his voice sounding extremely weak. Although Oscar's healing sausage didn't help much with his injuries, it still had some effect.
Okay.
Oscar didn't dare to hesitate, immediately releasing his spirit and channeling his spirit power into his spirit ring. Soon a healing sausage condensed. Flender hurriedly threw it into his mouth, chewed it a few times randomly, and swallowed it. The healing energy spread throughout his body. Unfortunately, his injuries were too severe, and that bit of energy didn't have much effect, only slightly alleviating his bleeding. Flender shook his head and looked at Oscar. What happened to Hongjian?
Fatty, he.
Oscar hesitated to speak, then couldn't help but start sobbing. An ominous feeling arose from the bottom of Flender's heart. What exactly happened to him? Flender's expression gradually became serious, and his tone grew heavier. He died, woo-woo. After saying this, Oscar immediately couldn't help but burst into tears.
What?
Flender was struck by lightning, standing frozen on the spot.
Ma Hongjian died.
How is this possible? With the spirit Grandmaster Dai Mubai, as well as the many teachers from the academy there. Ma Hongjian was fine, how could he possibly die? Oscar cried. Fatty's evil fire suddenly flared up, and he wanted to make a move on Xiao Wu. Dai Mubai was severely injured trying to stop him. This also angered Dai Mubai, and in his rage, he dealt a heavy blow and killed Fatty. However, Dai Mubai was also severely injured because of this. The academy teachers said that if he couldn't get timely treatment, even if he didn't die, he would be crippled. Boom! Oscar's words exploded in Flender's mind like muffled thunder. His body stumbled. How could this happen?
How could this happen?
Flender seemed to have lost his soul, repeating one sentence over and over again. He didn't understand how the situation had reached this point. How long had they been in Niuding City? In less than half a month, they had ended up with 2 dead and 2 severely injured. Is this Niuding City poisonous? Dane, are you okay? Oscar's eyes were full of worry as he looked at Flender. As he spoke, he looked left and right. Dane, where is teacher Xiao Wuji? Isn't he with you? Xiao Wuji. Oscar's words were like a sharp blade, piercing fiercely into Flender's heart. Overnight, his good brother and good disciple had both left him forever. But Flender was overcome with grief and anxiety, and couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of warm blood. Oscar was terrified and hurriedly supported him. Dane, what's wrong with you? Are you okay?
Cough, cough.
Flender coughed continuously, with blood constantly overflowing from the corners of his mouth. It was as if he was terminally ill and beyond saving. Dane, don't scare me. Oscar was so anxious that tears were streaming down his face. Ma Hongzhen was dead, Dai Mubai was seriously injured, and Xiao Wuji was missing. Being missing in this situation most likely meant something had happened to him. If something happened to the dean as well, what was he supposed to do? Flender raised his hand to wave him off. No, I'm fine. It was as if he had used up all his strength to say these words, each one weaker than the last. First, let's go back to the academy. Flender couldn't spare any more thought. The priority was to stabilize his injuries. Although the school doctor at Notting Academy was not high level, helping him stabilize his injuries and buying him time to find a high-level healing soul master shouldn't be a problem. Okay, Dean, I'll carry you. Oscar hurriedly turned around and crouched down halfway. Flender didn't refuse and directly climbed onto his back. Although Oscar was only a support spirit master, he was still a one-ring spirit master at over level 10, so carrying someone wasn't a problem. He carried Flender out of the alley and walked in the direction of Notting Academy. But neither of them noticed that the black energy that had originally gathered at the center of Oscar's brow was now beginning to spread throughout his entire body. It was clearly a sign that bad luck was about to erupt. Flender probably couldn't even dream that, as miserable as they already were, the bad luck hadn't ended yet, and there were still disasters waiting for him and Oscar ahead. The Shrek group this night was destined to be unlucky to the very end. The two hadn't walked far. A nightmarish voice suddenly exploded in their ears. Yo, what a coincidence. Hearing this, Flender jumped down from Oscar's back like a startled wild cat. He turned around abruptly and looked. He saw that damn round-faced bearded man and the tall thin man looking at them with smiles not far away. Damn it to run into them here. People can be unlucky, but they can't be this unlucky, right? Oscar looked at the two, his heart trembling. Although he didn't understand who the other party was, it wasn't hard to tell from Flender's reaction that they were likely the culprits who had caused Dean Flender to be severely injured. Chapter 48, using Oscar as a human shield. You have suffered no losses, must you really kill us all? Flender clenched his fists tightly, staring at the two men. He secretly maintained the circulation of his spirit power, ready to run at any moment. The tall thin man heard this and just smiled slightly. You took the initiative to come to our door, how could we not fulfill your wish? The round-faced bearded man also laughed as he added, Your good brother is already dead. What meaning is there in you living on alone? Hearing this, Oscar's pupils shrank violently. Sure enough, teacher Xiao Wuji was already dead. He didn't understand, they were clearly staying perfectly fine in Suichuo City. Why did they have to come to this godforsaken place? Now look at this mess. Fatty and teacher Xiao Wuji were dead. Although he and Flender weren't dead yet, they didn't seem far from death either. Flender gritted his teeth and glared at them. You two had better think clearly. Tang San's teacher, Xiaogang, is the son of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect Master. Xiaogang and I are brothers who have been through life and death together. If you kill me, can you two afford to bear the consequences? The tall thin man and his companion were both stunned. The son of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect Master. What kind of joke is that? How could the son of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect Master be hiding in such a godforsaken place? Besides, the tall thin man glanced sideways at the round-faced bearded man, his eyes full of confusion. Didn't he say he had played with Tang San's teacher? The round-faced bearded man was also bewildered that old Coot was actually Yu Yuanzhen's son. That can't be possible, right? How could a dignified disciple of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect be so weak? The other party didn't look very young. While pondering, he suddenly remembered that Yu Yuanzhen did indeed seem to have a good-for-nothing son. It had caused quite a stir back in the day. Thinking of this, the round-faced bearded man couldn't help but cast an inquiring look at the tall thin man. It seemed to be asking, what should we do? A dangerous cold light flashed in the depths of the tall thin man's eyes. He had already killed one of their people. And the two brothers had also tormented Tang San and his master quite enough. A blood feud had already been forged. It was impossible to easily resolve it just by letting the person in front of them go. Since that was the case, they might as well go all the way. Without any hesitation, the tall thin man's figure suddenly dashed out. As he charged forward, his spirit appeared in his hand. The person hadn't arrived and the spear hadn't reached, but a cold, sharp glint had already pierced the air. Flender instantly felt the hairs on his body stand on end. The fear of death washed over him, and he subconsciously grabbed Oscar's shoulders. He violently threw him out. Oscar's eyes widened sharply, his face filled with disbelief. Flender was actually using him to block the spear. Flender impfed. Before Oscar's curse could finish, the cold, sharp, long spear had already pierced through his chest. His body involuntarily stiffened, and the words that had already reached his lips were instantly choked back. Pain, it hurt so much. He endured the pain and turned his head to look back, but where was there any trace of Flender? In that very instant, Flender had already dashed into the sky and disappeared into the darkness. The tall thin man pulled out the long spear, and Oscar's body suddenly collapsed to the ground. HRK. Blood bubbles kept gushing from his mouth, and his eyes, gradually losing their luster, were wide open, staring fixedly at the endless night sky. Tusk. The round-faced bearded man came to the tall thin man's side, looking at Oscar's corpse and shaking his head continuously. That bastard, he's truly ruthless. Using a little brat to block a spear, if it were me, I might not even be able to do that. The tall thin man also couldn't help but shake his head. Should we go take a look at Notting Academy? Maybe they went back to the academy. The round-faced bearded man asked. The tall thin man looked toward the direction of Notting Academy and couldn't help but shake his head. Killing them or not doesn't have much meaning, running away is what's important. Yu Yuanzhen might already be on his way here by now. For every second they delayed, the danger increased. To risk their brothers' lives for a few good-for-nothings. It wasn't worth it. After Xiaogang and Tang San came out of the hotel, they didn't return to Notting Academy, but instead used the Spirit Hall Elder Token to have the city gates opened. Notting Academy was not safe. Who knows if those two guys would go to Notting Academy to look for them. The urgent matter now was to go and invite Tang Hao. Now only Tang Hao could give Xiaogang even a shred of a sense of security. As for Flender, he could only pray for his own luck. After all, he couldn't even guarantee his own safety right now. Brothers and such, how could they be more important than his own life? If Flender died, he would just mobilize all his connections to find those two damned guys and help avenge him. Teacher, where are we going? Tang San was full of confusion. Why did he feel like this was the road back to Saint Spirit Village? To Saint Spirit Village to find your father. At this point, Xiaogang couldn't be bothered to hide it anymore.
What?
Tang San looked at Xiaogang sharply, his face full of disbelief. Teacher actually knew where his father was. And his father was actually at home, not even 20 or 30 li away. Then what was all the suffering he had endured these past few days for? If he had called his father earlier, would he have had to endure so much suffering? Seeing this, Xiaogang's expression was slightly awkward. With things having turned out like this, he certainly bore a great deal of responsibility. But he didn't want this either. Who could have thought that the other party would be able to call over a spirit Douluo? If he had known earlier, how could he have let Flender and Zhao Wuji take this risk? Your father wouldn't let me tell you, and plus I didn't anticipate that the other party could find a spirit Douluo, so I didn't invite your father to come. Tang San tightened his fists and ultimately chose silence. Since things had already happened, saying anything more was meaningless. Although these days had been bitter, at least he was still alive, wasn't he? As for Zhao Wuji, he wasn't close to him anyway. If he died, he would just help him get revenge later. However, through this series of events, he discovered that the teacher he had apprenticed under, aside from his knowledge, didn't seem to have a single reliable point. After seeing his father, he would have to have a good talk with him about this situation. Putting other things aside for now, he at least needed to know his father's whereabouts. Otherwise, similar situations might happen again in the future. On the other side, Flender disregarded the risk of his injuries worsening and flew all the way back to Notting Academy. He didn't rush to the dormitory, but instead went straight to the academy infirmary. Those two guys were very likely to pursue him. Only by stabilizing his injuries first would he have the energy to continue running when they caught up. Bang! Flender kicked open the infirmary door and started shouting as soon as he entered. Where is everyone? The healing soul master hired by the academy walked out of a room with a sullen face. UF*C King. The healing soul master was about to start cursing, but was startled by Flender's blood-soaked appearance. Good heavens, what was going on today? First, a student was burned beyond recognition, and then a teacher was beaten into a critical state. And if he remembered correctly, this guy named Flender seemed to be a spirit saint, right? Chapter 49, The Tragic State of Dai Mubai. Flender lunged forward and rushed in front of the healing soul master. Quick, help me heal. Seeing the anxious look on his face, the healing soul master did not ask any questions. He immediately released his spirit. His spirit was a small green flower radiating specks of light. White, yellow, 3 spirit rings rose from beneath his feet. He was clearly a healing spirit elder. The moment his spirit was released, his 3 spirit rings lit up almost simultaneously. Then he pushed out with both hands. A shimmering green light was pushed from his palms and entered Flender's body. Soon that green light began to take effect. Flender could clearly feel his wounds healing rapidly, though he could not see them directly because they were obstructed by bloodstains and his clothes. The effect of the spirit ability soon faded. The healing soul master examined the condition inside Flender's body. Although your external wounds have healed, I cannot heal the damage to your meridians. You need to find a higher-ranking healing soul master. However, as it happens, your student is in a similar situation to you. He is also in urgent need of a high-ranking spirit master to treat his internal injuries. Otherwise, he will likely be stuck at the spirit Grandmaster realm for the rest of his life. Flender nodded, his mood heavy. Where is he? Although Dai Mubai killed his disciple, there was a reason for it after all. Furthermore, of the people he had brought out, only Dai Mubai remained. If he could be saved, he should be saved. Follow me. The healing soul master turned and walked towards the room where he had just been. Flender followed immediately. They arrived in the room. Dai Mubai's eyes were slightly closed, and he lay quietly on the hospital bed. Although his body was covered by a quilt, his face, which was fully exposed to the air, had returned to normal and he looked as if nothing had happened. The flames that burned him are quite extraordinary, and possess a very strong targeting ability, having completely incinerated his lower parts into ash. Flender looked sharply at the healing soul master, his eyes filled with disbelief. Is the lower parts you mentioned what I think it is? The healing soul master nodded. It is exactly what you understand it to be. He has now lost the ability to perform sexual intercourse. And as far as I know, there is no one who can make that thing of his grow back. Flender. For a moment, he felt there was no need to save him. After all, given Dai Mubai's personality, he would absolutely not be able to accept this fact. Even if his internal injuries were healed, he would likely choose to commit suicide. Forget it. Saving him was his responsibility as the Dane, but seeking death was Dai Mubai's own right. Let him decide for himself. Fine, I'll take him with me. Please help me pass a message to Grandmaster. Tell him I'll be waiting for him at Shrek Academy. Flender felt this place was too eerie. If he continued to stay here, he and Dai Mubai would probably not live much longer. It was better to return to Shrek. He swore he would never come near this godforsaken place of Newting City again in his life. Okay. After the healing soul master agreed, Flender picked up Dai Mubai and left the academy directly, not even intending to take a look at Ma Hongjun. Many students had died at Shrek, including many talented spirit masters he had taken as disciples. He had long been accustomed to such sudden partings. The dead are gone, there is no need to mourn. At dawn, Tang San and Xiaogang finally arrived at Saint Spirit Village. This is your village. Xiaogang looked at Saint Spirit Village, then could not help but look at Tang San. What kind of village has every household living in small Western-style houses, and even the village ground paved with unknown hard stone slabs? Those who didn't know would think this was the ancestral land of some spirit master family. Ugh. Tang San looked at this completely unfamiliar village before him, also looking bewildered. He had only been away for 2 years. How could the village have changed so much? They hadn't gone to the wrong place either. The reason the village had changed so much was naturally because of Lin Chen. He would come back to stay for a few days every holiday. Thinking he had more money than he knew what to do with, he funded the construction of a small Western-style house for every household, and even the village ground was well developed. Old Jack was now very proud in front of many village chiefs in the surrounding area. It couldn't be helped, the children in the village were successful. Although Lin Chen's level was not yet high, for Saint Spirit Village, he was much more practical than any spirit Douluo or even a titled Douluo. You have to know that spirit saint who walked out of Saint Spirit Village back then never returned. Seeing that he was also bewildered, Xiaogang could not help but shake his head. Forget it, let's go find your father first. The two soon arrived at the west end of the village. Looking at the rammed earth house not far away, which stood in stark contrast to the small Western-style houses in the village, Xiaogang and Tang San both fell silent. Why were there small Western-style houses everywhere in the village, but only Tang San's home was a rammed earth house? This was too out of place, right? This really wasn't because Lin Chen was stingy, but because Tang Hao was never there whenever he came back. He thought Tang Hao was not in the village, just like in the original work. Even if he repaired it, it would be empty, so he naturally wouldn't waste that money. And the villagers also knew that Tang Hao had never helped Lin Chen, so naturally, they couldn't let him repair Tang Hao's house too. Moreover, they only received the rewards because they had helped Lin Chen. Why should that lazy bum Tang Hao deserve it? Dad! The two walked to the front of the house, and Tang San immediately shouted aloud. Bangs crack! Following Tang San's shout, many inexplicable crashing sounds suddenly rang out inside the house. A moment later, the door opened. A drunken Tang Hao stood at the doorway, with wine bottles all over the floor inside. What's going on? Seeing the two, Tang Hao's drunkenness instantly sobered up a bit. Something must have happened, otherwise Xiaogang would not have brought Tang San back to find him. Seeing his dad again, the grievances in Tang San's heart could no longer be contained. Dad, After his shout, he threw himself into Tang Hao's arms. Tears also gushed out uncontrollably. Seeing this, Tang Hao's eyes suddenly turned cold, staring intently at Xiaogang. It seemed to be saying, "You had better give me an explanation." Xiaogang looked helpless and simply described the sequence of events. He didn't mention anything about difficulties upon difficulties. He just said that Tang San had some conflict with a spirit saint, and by the time he invited Flender and Zhao Wuji, the other party had invited a spirit Douluo. And then Zhao Wuji was beaten to death. Hearing this, Tang Hao's expression became even gloomier. Didn't that damned Lin Chen say that as long as he left Little San, the bad luck would be reduced? Where the hell is the reduction? You little brat, you just wait for me, see how I deal with you. Tang Hao cursed Lin Chen in his heart, then looked at Xiaogang. Are they still in Niuding City? Xiaogang shook his head. After we escaped, we came all the way to Saint Spirit Village. I don't know what the specific situation in the city is now. Let's go back. Tang Hao didn't say another word, and immediately took the two of them, and headed towards Niuding City to kill. Chapter 50, Which Dad of Yours? Good grief, not a single one of them returned. They didn't all die out there, did they? Lin Chen only learned about it after waking up in the morning. Whether it was Tang San, Xiaogang, and the others, or Oscar. None of them had returned. This made him seriously suspect that they had all died out there. However, upon closer thought, something felt off. Flender and Zhao Wuji were, after all, spirit saints. How could they possibly die in a small place like Niuding City, where a spirit ancestor could reign supreme? Lin Chen couldn't help but glance at Xiao Wu, who was sitting across from him eating breakfast. As expected of the female laid. For 2 years, she hadn't suffered a single major misfortune. Her luck was simply heaven-defying. However, she had accumulated 6 or 7 instances of it by now. It was about time she suffered a major misfortune, right? He just didn't know in what form it would erupt. While Lin Chen was deep in thought, he suddenly saw Tang San and Xiaogang appear at the top of the stairs. As expected, Tang San was, after all, the child of destiny. How could he die so easily? Both of their expressions were quite grim. Tang Hao had led them all the way back to Niuding City, but not only had they failed to find those 2 damned fellows, they had instead discovered Oscar's corpse on the street. And that wasn't all. After returning to the academy, they learned that Dai Mubai and Ma Hongjun had suffered 1 death and 1 severe injury. Flender had also taken Dai Mubai and run off. The events that occurred overnight had really made them doubt their own lives. They really couldn't understand how a person could be so unlucky. Tang San was fine, just a bit depressed. As long as he, Xiao Wu, and his teacher were fine, he didn't care how many others died. Xiaogang was different. He had written a letter calling Flender and the others over from Suichu City, only for them to end up with 3 deaths and 2 severe injuries in a matter of days. Who could handle that? Flender had even said he would wait for him at Shrek. How could he have the face to see him now? Xiao Wu, are you all right? Upon seeing Xiao Wu, Tang San rushed to her side in 2 or 3 strides. He already knew. The reason Ma Hongjun had died was because he wanted to insult Xiao Wu. It was fortunate that he was already dead, otherwise, Tang San would never have let him off. Xiao Wu retorted crossly, "What could possibly happen to me? Oscar went out to look for you last night. Did you run into him? Also, why don't I see Flender and the others?" Hearing this, Lin Chen couldn't help but prick up his ears. Hearing this, Tang San fell silent for a moment. Teacher Zhao Wuji sacrificed himself to save me, and Dean Flender was also severely injured and took Dai Mubai to find a high-level healing soul master. Hearing this, both Lin Chen and Xiao Wu widened their eyes. Those were 2 spirit saints. In a godforsaken place like Niuding City, shouldn't spirit saints be invincible? How could they end up in such a state? Xiao Wu suddenly asked alertly, "You didn't encounter a titled Douluo, did you?" If there really was a titled Douluo in Niuding City, she would have to run away. Otherwise, once discovered, the other party would at the very least keep her in captivity. Tang San shook his head. If it were a titled Douluo, I'm afraid the entire army would have been wiped out. It was just a spirit Douluo.
Just.
Hearing this, Lin Chen and Xiao Wu couldn't help but be speechless. They had been beaten like dogs, and he still said, just. Lin Chen asked, then what about Oscar? Did you run into him? Tang San shook his head. No, but we found his corpse. Lin Chen. Xiao Wu. How could his 36-degree mouth say such cold words? Xiaogang also walked over. Lin Chen, come with me, someone wants to see you. Lin Chen frowned slightly. He actually saw a trace of inexplicable joy on Xiaogang's face. So many people died, what the hell is he happy about? As for who wanted to see him, there was no need to guess. It must be Tang Hao. Had he been discovered? Probably not, otherwise Tang Hao wouldn't have sent Xiaogang to call him. He would have just killed him secretly. It seemed he would have to keep a low profile from now on, otherwise he would be exposed sooner or later. Although he had the silent shadow instant kill, and a certain chance to kill a titled Douluo, that chance wouldn't be very high. Before having absolute certainty, it was better to be cautious. Who? Lin Chen asked, knowing the answer. This was what a normal person would do. You'll know when you see them. Xiaogang held his head high and chest out, one hand behind his back, looking incredibly smug. It made people inexplicably want to give him a big slap across the face. Lin Chen glanced at him indifferently and continued eating as if he hadn't heard him. Tang Hao might be strong, but not enough to make him cower. If he couldn't beat him, couldn't he just run? With silent shadow instant kill and sky thunder movement, what could Tang Hao use to catch him? Seeing this, Xiaogang's expression immediately sank. This little brat, wasn't he giving him too little face? I had to endure it when Tang Hao wasn't here, and now that Tang Hao is here, I still have to endure it. Then wouldn't Tang Hao's arrival be for nothing? Bang! Xiaogang slammed his hand on the dining table, immediately attracting everyone's attention. Can't you hear me talking, you bastard? Xiaogang glared at Lin Chen, looking as if he wanted to swallow him alive. Are you sick? You scared the hell out of me. Before Lin Chen could speak, Xiao Wu exploded. She had really been startled. Xiaogang. Fine, everyone, man or ghost, doesn't take me, the Grandmaster of Theory, seriously, right? Xiao Wu.
Shut up.
Tang San wanted to say something, but was cut off by a glare from Xiao Wu. Fine, you little brat, don't regret this. Xiaogang looked furious, yet appeared to have no way to deal with Lin Chen. After saying this, he turned around and left. Grandmaster, please stay. Hearing this, Xiaogang shuddered all over, feeling a sharp pain in his bladder. He almost couldn't hold it in. Who? He took a deep breath, turned to look at Lin Chen, and gave a cold laugh. What, are you afraid? If you apologize to me now, it's not like I can't forgive you. Otherwise, he. Calamity strike on Xiaogang successful, received reward, 1 level of spirit power.
Sigh.
Lin Chen couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He had just said he wanted to keep a low profile, so why couldn't he help himself as soon as he saw his back? I just wanted to remind you that Ma Hongzhen's corpse is still in his dormitory. If no one takes care of it, it will start to stink in a few days. After saying this, Lin Chen muttered in a low voice. He doesn't even care about his own student's corpse. What kind of teacher is he? Xiaogang's expression immediately stiffened. What on earth was Flender doing, not even taking care of his own disciple's corpse? Does he expect me to go and bury him? Tang San was also stunned upon hearing this, but quickly felt relieved. Flender was in a rush to treat his injuries, and indeed had no time to deal with Ma Hongzhen's corpse. With his teacher, his good brother there was no need to worry about no one helping Ma Hongzhen be laid to rest.
HMPH.
Xiaogang snorted coldly and flicked his sleeves, leaving. Tang San looked at Lin Chen. Lin Chen, it's my dad who wants to see you. Lin Chen suddenly remembered yesterday's events. Wasn't it because of this so-called dad showing up that the subsequent series of events happened? Could the person who wants to see him not be Tang Hao, but that dad from yesterday? Which dad of yours? That's it for today's chapter. If you enjoyed it, like, comment, and subscribe to Infinite Novel Audio. For more stories, check out my other channel AI Otaku Studio, and I'll see you in the next chapter.